Chapter 825. P.S. There are 15 updates today. Thank you for your support. Please subscribe, please vote, please tip. Ouyang Shua said to Shunbuhai, I know about this matter. After I come down, the mountain sea guards will strengthen their investigation. It would be best if we can gather conclusive evidence. At the same time, get all the chess pieces in Minnan province to move. They will be put to use immediately. Yes, sir. Shunbuhai nodded solemnly. He had a premonition that his lordship was going to make a move this time. Ouyang Shua was indeed preparing to act. In the face of the Silver Hand's pressure, it was meaningless to retreat. Yin-Huang Alliance would never have thought that the chess piece they had just buried would be exposed. They had never expected that Shanghai City would choose to attack at such a time. To the Yin-Huang Alliance, this was their weakest period. After the Yin-Huang Alliance digested the aftereffects of the Yunnan battle, as well as the 3 new core technologies. Even if Shanghai City didn't make a move, the Yin-Huang Alliance would provoke them. Since it was like this, then why would Ouyang Shua exercise forbearance? He just happened to strike a lethal blow at this moment. When it was time to act, he had to act decisively. Shanghai City's plan in the Minnan province was not a matter of a day or two. Even the dragon-seeking acupoint technique couldn't imagine how influential Shanghai City was in Minnan province. This time, Ouyang Shua wanted to give Yin-Huang Alliance a warning. At the same time, it was also a formal declaration of war against the Silver Hand. Since they were destined to be opponents, then let's fight. As soon as Shun Buhai left, Ouyang Shua summoned Du Ruhui, Jia Su, and Hui Tsubing. That's the situation. Does anyone have any thoughts? Ouyang Shua asked. The 3 of them looked at each other in dismay. They didn't expect that Junshang would start a war when the country was about to be established. Du Ruhui frowned even more. The new round of army reorganization had not yet been completed, and it was too hasty to start a war now. However, the reason given by Junshang made them unable to refute it. Then let's fight, Du Ruhui finally said, leaving such a hidden danger. Even if we establish a country, I'm afraid it won't be stable. It's better to attack decisively and avoid future troubles. With Du Ruhui's statement, the matter was considered past. Jia Su was the chief librarian, so he only had the right to make suggestions, but not the right to make decisions. Hui Tsubing was the general of the army. If the emperor wanted to fight, he would be more than happy to. There was no reason for him to refuse. Ouyang Shua nodded and said, I know that Shanghai City is in the critical period of advancing to become a capital city. Therefore, the war cannot be dragged on for too long. If we are to fight, we must finish it quickly. When he think of a plan? As the territory's #1 strategist, Jia Su was naturally duty-bound. After thinking for a while, Jia Su slowly said, the most effective way to end the battle quickly is to kill the leader. Moreover, it has to be fast before the Yin-Huang Alliance can react. That way, even if the Yin-Huang Alliance wants to intervene, they won't be able to. Ouyang Shua said, You mean we should attack Dragon-Seeking City directly? Not bad. Jia Su nodded. Ouyang Shua didn't come to a conclusion immediately. He shouted outside, Bring me the map. After a while, 2 imperial bodyguards came in and found a map of Minnan province. They hung it on the west wall of Ouyang Shua's study. This was specially used by Ouyang Shua to hang maps. He would change the maps from time to time. Ouyang Shua and the others moved in front of the map. Minnan province was surrounded by mountains and the sea. 90% of the land area was mountainous and hilly. It was known as 8 mountains, 1 water, and 1 field. The coastline of the province was long and winding, mainly eroded by the coast. There were many islands scattered all over. Since Minnan province was located at the transportation hub of the East and South Seas, it could reach South Asia, West Asia, and East Africa by sea. It was the starting point of the historical maritime Silk Road and Zheng He's voyages to the west. It was also the distribution center of maritime commerce. Minnan province's coastal civilization was mainly marine civilization. It was also the origin of Mazu culture. Inland, it was mainly a farming civilization of Hakka people. Hakka culture was flourishing. In the game, Minnan province was divided into 5 counties. From north to south, they were Longyan County near Lingnan Province, Chuanzhou County near Chuanzhou County, Jianchuan Province bordering Jianchuan Province, Shawu County, and Fuyong County occupied by dragon-seeking city. Fuyong County was located at the north end of Minnan Province. It bordered Jiangnan Province to the north and Chuanzhou County to the south. Ouyang Shuo pointed at the map and said, "If we want to kill dragon-seeking city, we have to pass through Longyan County and Tingzhou County. With the Mountain Sea Guards operations in Minnan Province, it's not difficult to cover the army passing through these two counties." After the force system update, it was forbidden for territories to form alliances with territories that were not part of the alliance to temporarily borrow the teleportation formation and use the so-called teleportation tactic. Therefore, the army of Shanghai City could only pass through Minnan Province and directly attack the enemy. Among the 5 counties in Minnan Province, apart from Chuanzhou County and Fuyong County, more than 70% of the lords of Longyan County, Tingzhou County, and Shawu County were Shanghai City's secret allies. The so-called Shanghai Alliance Dragon-Seeking Alliance, formed by Dragon-Seeking City, was just a gift for Shanghai City. After the fourth system update, the alliance was forced to disband. Secretly, through the Chamberlain of Dependencies, the Mountain Sea Guards, and the Black Snake Guards, these territories had quietly sided with Shanghai City and signed a secret agreement. As long as Shanghai City's army arrived, these territories would change their flags and join Shanghai City. Ouyang Shuo would not mistreat these lords and promised them generous rewards. His purpose was to be able to control the situation in Minnan Province when Dragon-Seeking City was in trouble. However, Ouyang Shuo did not expect that he would have to use these chess pieces so soon. Ouyang Shuo originally wanted to nurture them for a period of time and produce a batch of refugees. Now it seemed that he could only take the opportunity of attacking Dragon-Seeking City and completely take over the entire Minnan Province. This operation would definitely cause the Yin-Huang Alliance's eyeballs to explode. Ouyang Shuo pointed to the map and said, "After the army leaves Tingzhou County and enters Fuyong County, it will be difficult to hide their tracks. Dragon-Seeking City has been operating in this county for more than a year, so they are not to be trifled with." Jiasu smiled and already had a plan. He said, "It's not completely impossible. We can let the spies lurking in Fuyong County spread some rumors, such as bandits and roving bandits in the border counties, to confuse the public and let the army fish in troubled waters." Ouyang Shuo smiled. "That's a good idea." After the fourth system update, the marching speed of the army had greatly increased. If it was an elite cavalry unit, it would only take 2 days at most to reach Dragon-Seeking City from the border of Fuyong County. They would be able to fish in troubled waters in time. As a member of the Mountain and Sea Alliance, Dragon-Seeking City not only had the same military establishment as Mountain and Sea City, but also the composition and deployment of the army were almost the same. There was an Imperial Guard Division and a City Guard Division stationed in Dragon-Seeking City. Each of the 5 prefectures of Fuyong County had a garrison brigade. The rest was a fully organized field army, the Dragon-Seeking Army. This army was not deployed at the border, but stationed not far from Dragon-Seeking City. Although the Mountain Sea Guards could not protect the army in Fuyong County unimpeded, there were hundreds of chess pieces buried in Dragon-Seeking City. One of the core chess pieces was the Confidant of Dragon-Seeking Acupoint. As mentioned before, Dragon-Seeking Acupoint was betrayed in his previous life and almost lost their nest. In this life, this person appeared again. What was different was that this person transformed into a mole of the Black Snake Guards with a shake of his body. The Mountain Sea Guards took over the resources of the Black Snake Guards, so naturally, they took over this person. The information that Dragon-Seeking Acupoint blurted out Xiong Ba in the study was sent by this spy. Therefore, the army of Mountain Sea City only needed to fish in troubled waters and successfully arrive at the outskirts of Dragon-Seeking City, then annihilate the Dragon-Seeking army stationed outside the city. The spy hidden in Dragon-Seeking City was confident that he could create chaos in Dragon-Seeking City, open the city gates, and lead the army into the city, then take down Dragon-Seeking City in one fell swoop. With such a little time, dragons seeking acupoint might not even be able to call for help. After the plan was decided, Ouyang Shuo looked at Hua Tsubing and said, "With the current conditions, do you have the confidence to take down dragon-seeking city before the Yan-Huang alliance can react?" Hua Tsubing was shocked when he heard this. Although the emperor's summons basically meant that the imperial guards would participate in this battle, Hua Tsubing was still a little excited to be appointed by the emperor. This kind of long-range surprise attack was Hua Tsubing's forte. Hua Tsubing bowed and said confidently, "The imperial guards only need to send 2 cavalry legions to complete this mission." Ouyang Shuo smiled in satisfaction. He admired Hua Tsubing's confidence. He turned to Du Ruhui and said, "Inform the 3rd Legion of the Brave Tiger Army. After the imperial guards succeed, immediately advance into Minnan Province and cooperate with the imperial guards to take over the 4 counties of Minnan Province. Wipe out all remaining resistance forces." Within Minnan Province, there were naturally people who were not convinced by Mountain Sea City. However, these territories were scattered and unorganized, so they did not pose much of a threat to Mountain Sea City. When the 3rd Legion of the Brave Tiger Army advanced into Minnan Province, apart from wiping out the remaining resistance forces, they were also responsible for taking over the troops that entered Mountain Sea City's territory and reorganizing them. Conservatively speaking, they could reorganize 1.5 field corps. Yes, Du Ruhui nodded. Next, the 4 of them discussed the specific battle plan with a map of Minnan Province. War was not child's play. The general direction had been decided, but the details could not be careless. Otherwise, it was very likely that they would lose everything. Apart from that, the existence of a battle plan was also necessary to draw up various contingency plans and countermeasures. The battlefield was ever-changing, and anything could happen. Some could be dealt with on the battlefield, but some needed to be considered clearly before the battle. For example, if the Imperial Guard's whereabouts were exposed when they passed through Longyan County or Tingzhou County, how to deal with it. Or if the Yanhuang Alliance's army was teleported to Dragon-Seeking City in time, how to deal with it. In short, there were many things to do, and the intelligence department had to be involved in the entire process. However, time waited for no man. While the General Administration of Military Affairs was still formulating a detailed battle plan, the army was about to set off ahead of time. That night, the 2nd and 3rd Legions of the Imperial Guards quietly left Mountain Sea City through the teleportation array in King City. They were teleported to Zhenhai City and then transported to Longyan County by the Ezhou fleet. A great battle that no one had expected had broken out just like that. At this time, the dragon seeking acupoint was still wrangling with Xiongba through letters. Chapter 826. On the night of the 7th of March, the warship carrying the Imperial Guards temporarily docked at the coastal port of Longyan County in Minnan Province and successfully delivered 2 cavalry legions to the front line. With the speed of the Imperial Guards, it would only take 5 days to reach the border of Fuyong County. There was actually a port in Fuyong County. If the army could be sent directly to Fuyong County, it would indeed save a lot of time and trouble. However, Ouyang Shuo did not dare to take the risk with the dragon-seeking city patrolling the waters. After betraying the Shanghai alliance, the dragon-seeking city would definitely be extremely sensitive to any movements of Shanghai City. As long as the Ezhou fleet appeared in the waters, it would probably cause a misunderstanding. This was a risk that could not be taken. While the front line was surging, everything was as usual in Shanghai City. Although Ouyang Shuo was concerned about the war in Minnan Province, he acted as if nothing had happened and continued doing what he was supposed to do. He even took the time to publish an article with his name on the Daily Dispatch to warm up the popularity of Country and Beauty. As soon as the article was published, it caused a heated discussion. Some people saw the business opportunity and were eager to give it a try. Of course, there was no lack of mockery. Some people joked that Shanghai City had been humiliated twice by the Yanhuang Alliance. How could Wei still have the mood to be so carefree? It was really a case of playing with things and losing one's will. Ouyang Shuo naturally laughed at these malicious words. Why should he care about them? Other than that, Ouyang Shuo focused on the promotion mission of the capital. During the day, Jiang Shang led an assessment team and began to conduct a 3-day mock assessment of Shanghai City. They either went in and out of the various agencies of the protectorate to check the files or went deep into the city to investigate. According to Ouyang Shua's instructions, the Shanghai guards strengthened the surveillance of the city, especially the city gate and the teleportation array. For the time being, they had not found any suspicious people. There was still no news from the divination, which of the 36 lines mission, which made Ouyang Shua quite anxious. However, there was a breakthrough in the new troops mission. Du Ruhui reported that someone had found a herd of wild elephants in a valley between Mengding County and Tungyue County. Xiaoying, the head of the general office, had personally gone to take care of this matter. If it went well, the General Office of Military Affairs would be able to use this as a foundation to train a war elephant troop and complete the new troops mission. According to the real map, that should be the Zishuingbana region. No wonder there were elephants. In reality, Zishuingbana was the only place in China that still had elephants. Ouyang Shua was overjoyed when he heard this. Ouyang Shua was no stranger to the war elephant troop. During the Battle of Mai, the Shang dynasty's army had a troop of war elephants. They wore heavy armor and were very destructive on the battlefield, leaving a deep impression on Ouyang Shua. In ancient times, war elephants were used as special forces, and in ancient cold weapon warfare, they played the role of modern tanks. Trained war elephants charge and break through enemy lines in battle. They are brave and invincible. They can break city gates, destroy barracks, dismantle weapons, trample over enemy troops, break enemy lines, and often cause great casualties to the enemy. If they really wanted to train the war elephants, not only would they be able to complete the mission, but they would also be able to provide the territory with a new type of soldier. If it was allocated to the various field armies and used properly, it would be able to display miraculous effects. March 8th, Shanghai City. On this day, Song Jia, who had been out for 6 days, finally returned to Shanghai City. According to the time flow in the instance dungeon, Song Jia's group had stayed in the Kunlun instance dungeon for a total of 2 months. As the first person to conquer a wuxia instance, they naturally gain a lot. According to Song Jia, there were 3 core rewards after clearing the instance dungeon. One was the Zifu Yuan Zone that Liang Xiao had obtained from the Pure Yang Iron Box. It was said to be a martial arts secret manual passed down by Lu Dongbin when he became immortal. The foundation of the martial arts of the West Kunlun sect was the Purple Mansion Yuan Zone, which was similar to another very famous secret book, the Nine Yang Sutra. The second was the Guizong swordsmanship that Gong Yang had created. It was the best sword technique in the world. It contained everything, including the 8 trigrams, the 5 elements of heaven and earth, and all the sword techniques in the world were hidden in it. The sword techniques were divided into 8 types: Qian, Kuan, Zhen, Sun, Canli, Zhen, and Dui. According to the principles of the Guizong, they interacted and developed, creating everything in the world. The 8 trigram sword technique had extraordinary power, and it could be combined to create a new sword technique. 8 by 8, there were 64 trigrams, so they could give rise to 64 different sword techniques. When different sword techniques were used together, they were unpredictable. Their attributes were very different, but their power was extraordinary. The third was Gong Yangyu's divine armament, the green hornless sword. This sword was forged by the master swordsmith, Longzi, and Gong Yangyu was the guardian of the sword. Other than the 3 core items, the spoils of war included more than 10 different weapons, all of them at the dark gold rank and above. There were more than 10 martial arts manuals, the worst of which were at the gold rank, with most of them being at the king rank. The bountiful harvest far exceeded the 850,000 gold coins Xiesian had spent to bid for the dungeon key. Ignoring the rest, just any one of the 3 core items was worth more than 500,000 gold coins. According to the previous agreement, Song Jia had the right to choose one of the core items. She chose the Guizong swordsmanship that Gong Yangyu had created. After leaving the dungeon, Gaia had automatically renamed it to the Guizong Swordsmanship Sutra an emperor-ranked manual. Song Jia's choice was firstly because the Nine Sutra she cultivated clashed with the Zifu Yuan zone. She could not cultivate it even if she wanted it. No matter how sharp the green hornless sword was, it could not compare to the pure June sword, one of the 10 famous swords in Song Jia's hands. Secondly, Song Jia really needed a top sword technique. The Yu Maiden sword was already somewhat outdated. The Guizhong Swordsmanship Sutra was extensive and profound. It was enough for Song Jia to include it in her main cultivation technique, allowing her to benefit from it for the rest of her life. Even if she were to encounter other sword manuals in the future, she could incorporate them into the Guizhong Swordsmanship Sutra. Thirdly, as the sect master of the Eastern Fence Sword sect, Song Jia could list the Guizhong Swordsmanship Sutra as the cornerstone martial art of the sect, enriching the sect's martial arts. The Guizhong Swordsmanship Sutra could derive 64 sword techniques. When imparting it to disciples, it could be imparted selectively according to their aptitude and status. Such a manual was most suitable to be placed in the sect. With the release of the martial world's winds and clouds, the martial world was in turmoil. The Eastern Fence Sword sect was truly lucky to obtain this sword manual. It was greatly beneficial to the overall strength of the sect. Other than the Guizhong Swordsmanship Sutra, Xiesian had given Song Jia a small gift before leaving the dungeon. It was a small booklet named 10 Calculations of Heavenly Secrets. This booklet was placed together with the Zifu Yuan zone. Although it was mediocre, it was still considered a wondrous item. The 10 Calculations of Heavenly Secrets were engraved in front of a bluestone wall next to the yin and yang illusionary formation of the Tianji Palace. They were 10 calculation questions written by the previous masters of the Tianji Palace. They were originally left by the previous masters of the Tianji Palace to be solved by the later generations. When the 8th calculation was engraved, no one could solve it for 100 years, until the Songming divine calculation, Hua Yuan Mao, appeared. Hua Yuan Mao was a genius. After solving the 8th calculation, he gave 2 more calculation questions. He engraved the 9th calculation and solved it himself. At this time, Hua Yuan Mao's mastery of calculation could be said to be unprecedented, but he was still not satisfied. He gave the elements outside the elements, asking for the solution of any dimension. In order to learn the Tai diffraction sword and save his mother who was taken away by Xiao Qianjue, Xiao Yangxiao made a bet with the master of the Tianji Palace and tried his best to solve the 10 calculations of heavenly secrets. He didn't expect that the last question could not be solved. Liang Xiao spent 5 years and only solved the 9th calculation. The 10th calculation was called Elements Outside the Elements, asking for the solution of any dimension. It wasn't until 400 years later when a large group of calculation geniuses appeared in France. They used Western calculation as a foundation and finally found another way to solve it. But even then, they only managed to find the method. If one wanted to calculate, it would be impossible even if they used their entire life's effort. After another few hundred years, with the help of machinery, they could do as they pleased. This booklet is useless to us. You can have it. These were C.S. Yun's original words. After returning to Shanghai City, Song Jia gave the booklet to Ouyang Shua. Ouyang Shua accepted it calmly and put it in his storage bag. Such a special item might come in handy in the future. He naturally didn't mind keeping it. In the following days, the wilderness was calm and peaceful. There was no more big news. During this period, Ouyang Shua was either paying attention to the progress of the capital's advancement mission or sending letters to the lords of Minnan province to make final confirmations to prevent any accidents. The results of Jiangshan's mock assessment were very ideal. As long as the officials sent by the greatly imperial court didn't deliberately make things difficult for them, Shanghai City would have no problem completing the imperial court assessment mission. This was normal. If Shanghai City couldn't meet the assessment standards with its deep accumulation, Ouyang Shu couldn't imagine any other lord city that could reach Shanghai City's level. Just based on the 2 highest educational institutions, the Southwest University China Academy and the Military Academy, no one could beat them. Shanghai City had obtained titles such as Holy Land of 100 Clans, Holy Land of Craftsmen, Prosperous Land of Martial Arts, and Home of Spirit Beasts. Ouyang Shuo wasn't busy, but the Shanghai Guards and the Honglu Temple were extremely busy. Not only did they have to coordinate with their allies along the way to arrange a safe route for the army, but they also had to secretly supply the army to prevent the enemy from noticing anything amiss. Other than that, they also had to create rumors in Fuyong County and incite bandits to create chaos in the county. Everything was related to the success or failure of the war. They couldn't be careless. Shen Buhai and Zhang Yi were walking on thin ice. They were afraid that something would go wrong and couldn't sleep at night. Fortunately, the Imperial Guards finally arrived at the border on the 12th of the 3rd month. At the same time, rumors were spreading in Fuyong County according to Jia Su's plan. Hua Tsubing didn't rest and led his troops straight to Dragon Search City. However, he became more careful when marching. Most of the time, the army had to split into 5 or 6 groups to avoid being exposed. Even if they were accidentally discovered along the way, they would just think that they were bandits. On the night of the 13th of the 3rd month, the Imperial Guards successfully arrived at the outskirts of Dragon Search City. The 6 groups of troops along the way met in a forest 20 miles away from the Dragon Search Army and camped there to hide their tracks. After entering Fuyong County, the army supplies were completely supported by military ration pills. In just one day, they needed to consume more than 300,000 military ration pills, which were worth tens of thousands of gold. As long as they waited for dawn, the army would be able to head straight for the main camp. When Ouyang Shuo heard the news, he found it hard to sleep. What kind of upheaval would the shocking attack of Shanghai City cause in the China region and even the whole world? Ouyang Shuo didn't know for now. Chapter 827. 14th of March, Dragon-Seeking City. At daybreak, Hua Tsubing led the 140,000 Imperial Guards under the guidance of a spy from the Military Intelligence Bureau. They silently made their way to the Dragon-Seeking Legion's encampment. Along the way, Hua Tsubing's personal guards removed all the hidden sentries without making a sound. The patrolling soldiers only noticed them when they were less than 5 miles away from the encampment. Unfortunately, it was too late. Charge! Hua Tsubing tightened his legs on the back of his horse. He waved his sword and ordered the entire army to charge. At the same time, Hua Tsubing activated his mounted warrior specialty and gave the army a super buff. Charge! With the order, the army immediately sped up and the war horses neighed. Lu Bu and Ma Chao, this pair of peerless generals, each led an army. They split into 2 groups and charged forward personally. Just like Hua Tsubing, they also activated their specialties. According to Gaia's settings for generals, the effect of a general's specialties would only be applied to the troops they commanded and not the entire army. Therefore, Hua Tsubing could buff both armies at the same time, while Lu Bu and Ma Chao's buffs were only applied to their respective armies. Further down, Chao Chun and Ma Teng's specialties were only applied to their respective armies. They advanced layer by layer. The Imperial Guards, who had been buffed by the double buff, were like arrows that had been released from a bow, or like a stormy sea, charging towards the military camp with an unstoppable momentum. The guards at the entrance of the encampment wanted to close the gates, but before they could do so, a round of arrows rained down on them. Not a single person was left alive. The guards on the wooden walls of the encampment had just fired a round of arrows when the vanguard of the Imperial Guards had already rushed to the foot of the encampment. Like a bulldozer, they charged into the encampment. Any enemy who stood in the way of the Imperial Guards would only have one fate: death. After charging into the encampment, Lu Bu had already received the order to personally lead a group of troops to the central camp. As long as they could take down Commander Qin Xiong of the Dragon-Seeking Legion, there would be no more suspense in this battle. At this moment, the central tent was in chaos. Early in the morning, the soldiers of the Dragon-Seeking Legion were awakened by the deafening battle cries before they could even get out of bed. They broke out in cold sweat. Qin Xiong woke up and was washing up when a guard suddenly came to report. "General, bad news. Enemy attack." Enemy attack? Qin Xiong did not panic when he received the report. He asked, Which group of people are they? Did they eat a bear's heart or a leopard's gall? Qin Xiong thought that the newcomers were bandits or roving bandits who had been causing quite a ruckus recently. In Fuyong County, there was really no one who could shake the dragon-seeking legion. The guard's face was deathly pale as he said, "General, it's the Imperial Guards of Shanghai City." Just the mention of this name caused the guard to feel an immense pressure. As Qin Xiong's personal guard, the guard often accompanied Qin Xiong on expeditions, and he had witnessed the might and terror of Shanghai City's Imperial Guards. The guards could never have imagined that there would be a day when they would have to fight against such an army. Just thinking about it made one's limbs go weak. What? Qin Xiong was also in disbelief. How could it be the Shanghai City Imperial Guards? Is there a mistake? Qin Xiong didn't know that he had secretly betrayed the alliance of mountains and seas. Just like the poor guard, no matter how imaginative Qin Xiong was, he could never have imagined that the Shanghai City Imperial Guard would come here. Is the southern border governor going to exterminate the dragon-seeking city just because the Lord made a few complaints? Qin Xiong could only speculate in this way, feeling indignant for his lord in his heart. The guard hesitated and asked, "General, what should we do now?" Qin Xiong's face was gloomy as he asked, "Have you sent a letter to the Lord by pigeon?" The guard replied, "Yes, I have. I've warned the Lord as soon as possible." Qin Xiong nodded, and his expression suddenly became firm. He said, "Since Shanghai City is so heartless, we can only fight to the death." As he said this, Qin Xiong walked out of the central tent with his halberd in hand, mounted his war horse, and began to assemble the troops. The guard listened and silently followed the general. They really had no other choice. While Qin Xiong was assembling the troops, there was suddenly a rush of horse hooves in front of them. Focusing his gaze, he saw a tall and mighty general leading his troops over. This general was clad in golden beast armor, holding a heavenly halberd in his hand, and riding on a majestic white warhorse. It was Lu Bu. "Who are you?" Qin Xiong didn't recognize Lu Bu. Lu Bu smiled. Riding on the scarlet rabbit horse, he looked extremely ferocious. He laughed loudly and said, "You are Qin Xiong, right? Listen up, I'm Lu Bu Lu Fengxian." Qin Xiong's eyes narrowed when he heard this. Lu Bu's name was known even in the Sui and Tang dynasties. "Why did you attack my army?" Qin Xiong asked. Lu Bu said, "Your lord betrayed Shanghai City and secretly formed an alliance with our enemy, the Yanhuang Alliance. How can we not punish such a rebellious act?" "Don't slander me." Qin Xiong didn't believe it. Lu Bu smiled and sat on the red rabbit horse. He said leisurely, "You know my lord's character. If there is no conclusive evidence, why would he attack you?" "Then show me the evidence." Qin Xiong felt uneasy. He noticed that the eyes of the soldiers around him were wandering when they heard Lu Bu's words. The ancients hated betrayal. If his lord really did such a thing, the seeking dragon army's morale would be lowered for no reason. Lu Bu smiled and said, "What evidence do you need? Isn't it better to go with me and confront your lord?" What he meant was that he wanted Qin Xiong to surrender. Unlike Cheng Yaojin, Qin Xiong was known for his good temper and wouldn't get angry easily. But after hearing Lu Bu's words, coupled with the uneasiness in his heart, Qin Xiong's blood boiled. He said, "So, we can't settle this peacefully today." Lu Bu shook his head and said, "As long as you put down your weapons, everything can be discussed." "You've gone too far." Qin Xiong was furious. He didn't care what the truth was and said, "Since you're so arrogant, then let's fight." Both of them were fierce generals, and it was best to talk with their fists. No matter if it was reasonable or not, the one who won was reasonable, and the one who lost was unreasonable. Lu Bu laughed and said, "That's exactly what I was thinking." He was a martial arts fanatic, but he hadn't met many decent opponents in the Three Kingdoms, so he couldn't fight to his heart's content. Now that he was in the wilderness and in Shanghai City, Lu Bu was like a fish in water. Not only did the Imperial Guards have a strong opponent like Ma Chao, but the other armies also had many fierce generals. Eli, Su Chu, Shi Wansui, and the others were all top-notch generals. This made Lu Bu very happy. Usually, he would find Ma Chao to spar with, and when he had nothing to do, he would go out of the city to find Eli to spar with. Eli was also a martial arts fanatic, but the two of them ended up fighting each other. Now that he saw Qin Xiong, Lu Bu was itching to fight again. It wasn't that Lu Bu was delaying things, but that he didn't even care about military orders to fight. Lu Bu knew that if he didn't subdue Qin Xiong with his martial arts, he wouldn't surrender. To deal with a fierce general, one had to use a fierce general's method. Huizubing had given this task to Lu Bu because of this consideration. As they spoke, the two fierce generals had already set up their battle formation, and a battle of generals was about to begin. The soldiers of the Seeking Dragon army were already bewildered. Seeing that their commander had stepped forward, they stopped fighting, unwilling to sacrifice innocent lives. Everything could wait until the battle was over before making a decision. Just like that, the battle near the Central Army's tent gradually calmed down. The army made way for the two commanders to have a good fight. The two fierce generals both used halberds. Without saying anything, they immediately started fighting. They didn't use their full strength in their first fight. They were just testing each other's strength. Qin Xiong couldn't help but laugh bitterly in his heart. Lu Bu's bravery was indeed well-deserved. His terrifying strength alone was enough to destroy more than 90% of the generals. During the Three Kingdoms period, whenever Lu Bu fought generals, his heavenly halberd didn't have any fancy moves. He only used a few basic moves, and that was enough to force his opponent into a corner. There was no other reason than the huge difference in strength. Lu Bu's seemingly light attack actually contained terrifying strength. His opponent couldn't withstand it, and had to pay 120% of his attention to block it. As such, he naturally couldn't use his exquisite moves. Therefore, if he really wanted to force Lu Bu to use his ultimate moves, he had to be on par with him in terms of strength. For example, Ma Chao and Eli were on the same level as Lu Bu. Even if there was a slight difference, they could use their techniques to make up for it. Although Qin Xiong looked gentle, his strength wasn't weak. However, compared to a peerless warrior like Lu Bu, he was still a level lower. He was immediately at a disadvantage in the battle. Fortunately, Qin Xiong's halberd techniques were adept, and he had received the teachings of a master, so he didn't lose immediately. Seeing this, Lu Bu's fighting spirit rose even higher. Most people misunderstood Lu Bu, thinking that he only used his strength to suppress others. In reality, not only was Lu Bu extremely strong, but his martial arts skills were also extraordinary. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been called a peerless warrior. Whether it was halberds, bows, spears, or broadswords, Lu Bu was proficient in all of them, especially his halberd techniques. When Lu Bu saw that Qin Xiong's halberd techniques were quite exquisite, he immediately became interested. He wasn't in a hurry to defeat Qin Xiong. Instead, he forced Qin Xiong to use his halberd techniques step by step to feast his eyes. Just like that, the scene was very exciting. The soldiers who didn't know much about the halberd techniques felt their blood boiling, and they couldn't help but applaud. Unknowingly, Ma Chao had also arrived at the central camp with his troops. Seeing that Qin Xiong's halberd techniques were really exquisite, he couldn't help but applaud. The battle between the two went on for 40 to 50 rounds. Even though Lu Bu was going easy, Qin Xiong was getting more and more exhausted. He had already used the halberd techniques 3 times. Seeing that Qin Xiong had no more new moves, Lu Bu didn't want to delay any longer. He waved his heavenly halberd and used 90% of his strength. This time, Qin Xiong couldn't hold on any longer and could only defend himself. After 10 rounds, under Lu Bu's fierce attacks, Qin Xiong's face turned pale, and he had no choice but to admit defeat. Lu Bu didn't have the slightest intention to humiliate Qin Xiong. He withdrew his heavenly halberd and said, "Your halberd techniques are indeed exquisite, and I've learned a lot. Whether what I said was true or not, the truth will naturally come to light after we take down the dragon-seeking city. Before that, I'll have to trouble you and your troops to stay in the camp for the time being." Qin Xiong's expression was dejected, but he was already 70% convinced. Chapter 828. Qin Xiong held his halberd and sat on the back of his horse. He looked around and saw that the entire military camp had quietened down. The dragon-seeking army was surrounded by the Shanghai City Imperial Guards and had no chance of winning. More importantly, the news of his lord's betrayal of Shanghai City had spread throughout the military camp. The army had no will to fight, and the general had been ambushed by the Imperial Guards. How could the army have any morale left? Even if Qin Xiong insisted on fighting, not many soldiers would fight with him. When Qin Xiong saw this, he sighed in his heart. He had a faint premonition that regardless of whether the Lord had betrayed them or not, Dragon-Seeking City would be removed from the wilderness from today onwards. As a veteran who had witnessed the growth of Dragon-Seeking City, Qin Xiong had mixed feelings. At that moment, Hua Tsubing arrived at the central tent, surrounded by his guards. Both the Imperial Guards and the soldiers of the Dragon-Seeking Army parted to make way for him. It was respect from the bottom of their hearts for the divine generals. Lu Bu and the other generals got off their horses one by one, not daring to be careless. Even Qin Xiong got off his horse and looked at Hua Tsubing with a complicated expression. The name of the general of White Cavalry was renowned throughout history. Hua Tsubing was still as handsome as ever. He got off his horse and came to Qin Xiong. Shanghai City is indebted to you. His Majesty said that there is no need to force you to make a decision immediately. When we take down Dragon-Seeking City and the truth is revealed, you will make a decision. Qin Xiong was silent. He did not expect that the Duke of Shanghai still remembered the fact that he was seconded to Shanghai City to teach the cavalry halberd techniques. Hua Tsubing continued, "Before that, I will have to trouble you to restrain the troops and wait for news in the camp." Hua Tsubing was very tactful and gave Qin Xiong enough face. Qin Xiong had nothing else to say. He nodded dejectedly and cupped his fists. "The defeated general is at your disposal." Hua Tsubing smiled and did not mind. As Qin Xiong admitted defeat, the dragon-seeking army was taken down. Hua Tsubing arranged for Lu Bu's army to guard the camp and disarmed the soldiers and put them under house arrest. Time was of the essence. Hua Tsubing did not delay any longer. He reorganized his troops and led Ma Chao's army to attack Dragon-Seeking City. There would be variables if they did not take down Dragon-Seeking City. Dragon-Seeking City, City Lord Mansion. 10 minutes after the Imperial Guards charged into the camp of the Seeking Dragon Army, a messenger pigeon flew over from afar and landed in the pigeon house, bringing an urgent battle report from the front line. There is only one line of words on the letter. Shanghai City's Imperial Guards have suddenly attacked. Danger! Seeking Dragon Acupoint received the messenger pigeon, and his face instantly turned pale. He was stunned on the spot and muttered to himself, "Have I been exposed so quickly? No, I have to inform Xiong Ba and the others immediately." The sudden turn of events threw the dragon-seeking Acupoint Master, into a state of confusion. The hand holding the brush trembled faintly, and drops of ink appeared on the letter. He had to rewrite the letter twice before he was able to finish it. Just as he was about to ask someone to mail the letter, the personal guard outside the door ran in and said, "Reporting to my lord, there is a sudden large-scale riot in the city. Many places in the city are on fire." Bada! The letter in Sun Long's hand fell to the ground, and his expression was blank. He didn't even need to think to know that the arsonist was definitely a spy from Shanghai City. This is a premeditated attack. The situation was urgent, and Sun Long couldn't think too much. He said to the personal guard, "Send this letter first. Order the City Guard Division to cooperate with the bailiffs to maintain order in the city. Any troublemakers are to be killed without mercy. At the same time, order the Imperial Guard Division to gather at the City Lord's mansion without delay." After a pause, Sun Long continued, "Order all the guard brigades to gather at the Seeking Dragon City immediately." "Yes, my lord." The personal guard turned and left. Hearing the noise coming from the city from time to time, Sun Long was like an ant on a hot pan. He paced back and forth in the study, but didn't know how to deal with it. If the Shanghai City Imperial Guards really charged into the city, the Imperial Guard Division and the City Guard Division would definitely not be able to defend. As for the local guard brigades, they could only do their best and leave the rest to fate. Right now, his only hope was the Yin Huang alliance. I hope those guys will keep their word this time. After being ruthlessly played by Xiongba, Sun Long's impression of the Yin Huang alliance was extremely bad. After all, they were not on the same path. Thinking of this, Sun Long returned to his seat and wrote a letter. He needed to urgently contact his allies in the Minnan province and call on everyone to fight against the invasion of Shanghai City. In a hurry, Sun Long forgot how the Shanghai City Imperial Guards suddenly appeared in Fuyong County. Just as the dragon-seeking acupoint technique was going all out, a series of soul-stirring assassinations were taking place in Dragon-Seeking City. First, the courier station was attacked. Although the city guard army arrived in time, the scene was still chaotic, so the spies of the major forces hiding in the wilderness of the Seeking Dragon City could not send the news out immediately. Then, the personal guard responsible for delivering the letter to Sun Long was attacked by a crossbow as soon as he walked out of the city lord's mansion. He was seriously injured and fell to the ground. The surrounding personal guards saw that they were facing a great enemy. They protected the wounded and arranged for others to deliver the letter. Another person was attacked by a crossbow as soon as he walked out. In less than 10 minutes, 4 people were killed on the way to deliver the letter. The personal guards' faces were livid. They did not dare to act rashly, and the two sides continued to waste time. As long as the Imperial Guard army rushed over, the situation would be resolved. This delay lasted for more than half an hour. By the time the messenger arrived at the courier station under the heavy protection of the Imperial Guard army, suppressed the riot at the courier station, and sent the letter out, almost an hour had passed. During this time, Huizubing had already taken down the Seeking Dragon army and headed straight for Seeking Dragon City. Overlord City, City Lord's Mansion. Upon receiving the letter for help from Sun Long, Xiongba immediately summoned Wu Qi. General, in your opinion, what should we do now? Should we send reinforcements immediately, or should we inform the other allies and wait for the army to be assembled before sending troops? Xiongba asked. Wu Qi said, "How long do you think Seeking Dragon City can last, Lord?" Xiongba was speechless. His face was filled with indescribable anger as he scolded. Sun Long is a failure. It's only been a few days, and he's already exposed. I'm afraid there are spies of Shanghai City around him. However, Wu Qi was not in a position to interrupt. Xiongba said to himself, to think that he had the cheek to swear in front of me that he had been guarding against Shanghai City for a long time and would never leak the news. What an idiot. If he had known this would happen, Xiongba would not have turned to Seeking Dragon City. Now, not only did he fail to defeat the tiger, he was bitten by the tiger instead. If Dragon City fell, Overlord City would immediately face Shanghai City head-on. Thinking of this, Xiongba was furious. Seeing this, Wu Qi reminded, "Lord, you need to make a decision soon." Xiongba said, "General, do you mean to send reinforcements immediately without waiting for the allies?" Wu Qi nodded. "If you don't want to lose Dragon City as a barrier, you can only send troops immediately. With Shanghai City's means, I'm worried that if we are a little late, it will be too late." Xiongba's expression was uncertain. He gritted his teeth and said, "General is right. This matter cannot be delayed. How about this? You lead 2 armies and rush over first. I will contact the allies in the rear before gathering the army." "That's good." Wu Qi nodded. Xiongba was also a decisive person. He cupped his fists and said, "Thank you, General." Saying this, he took out the commander's seal and handed it to Wu Qi, giving Wu Qi the right to mobilize troops. Wu Qi took the commander's seal, saluted, and turned to leave. Seeing this, Xiongba felt a little uneasy. Shanghai City had been suppressed by the Yin Huang alliance twice. If they suddenly attacked at this time, it would not be so simple. No matter what, they couldn't let Overlord City take the brunt of it alone. Thinking of this, Xiongba immediately returned to the table and sent a letter to Di Chun and the others, letting them know that Overlord City was advancing to discuss important matters. A series of events that happened later confirmed Xiongba's uneasiness. At noon on the 14th of March, before the army led by Wu Qi reached the border, The news that Dragon City had been captured by Shanghai City spread throughout the wilderness. Xiongba immediately broke out in a cold sweat when he received the news. He urgently ordered Wu Qi's army to rest in place for the time being. In Overlord City, Xiongba and Di Chun and the others urgently discussed countermeasures. But before they could come to a conclusion, a series of battle reports stunned Xiongba and the others. Almost at the same time that Dragon City was captured, a total of 10 lords of Longyan County, Tingzhou County, and Shawu County of Minnan Province issued a joint statement, voluntarily abdicating their positions and accepting the reorganization of Shanghai City. A stone stirred up 1,000 ripples. There were only 16 lords in the 3 counties of Minnan Province, and more than half of them submitted to Shanghai City. Longyan County, which was close to Lingnan Province, was the most exaggerated. 4 of the 5 lords submitted to Shanghai City. The remaining lord was so scared that his face turned pale, and he immediately issued a message, voluntarily abdicating his position. In this way, Shanghai City conquered Longyan County without losing a single soldier. The 3rd Legion of the Brave Tiger Army received the military order and immediately advanced into Longyan County. While breaking the territorial stone tablets, they incorporated the armies of the 6 territories and marched towards Tingzhou County. Hua Tsubing, who had already stabilized Fuyong County, personally guarded Dragon City. At the same time, he ordered the Ma Chao Legion to advance into Shawu County and cooperate with the allies of Shawu County to encircle the remaining territories. For a while, the situation in Minnan Province changed. Di Chun and the others were shocked, speechless by the series of battle reports. Xiongba broke the silence and asked, "What should we do now? Should we send more troops?" Xiongba hoped that the alliance would send more troops because if Shanghai City conquered the entire Minnan Province, he would not be able to sleep well. Di Chun shook his head firmly and said, "How can we send more troops? More than 70% of Minnan Province has already fallen into Shanghai City's hands. With Shanghai City's reserves of 1 million soldiers, if we send 200,000, they could send 300,000. If we send 300,000, they can send 400,000. Minnan Province is already a swamp. If we fall into it, not only will we not get any benefits, but we will also drag the alliance down. When that time comes, will the organization still support us?" Di Chen's words made Xiongba's face turn pale. He realized that the worst situation had already happened. Chapter 829. Di Chun and the others did not stay in Hegemon City for long and immediately returned to their respective territories. The upheaval in Minnan Province caught Di Chun and the others off guard. The Yanhuang Alliance, which was originally in a good position with the support of Silverhand, seemed to be on the verge of collapse. The prospects were bleak. After taking over Minnan Province, Shanghai City's territory was already equivalent to the entire Yanhuang Alliance's territory, and its strength was frighteningly powerful. If compared with European countries, it was equivalent to 3 or 4 European countries combined. Even if Silverhand supported them, Di Chun and the others could not see the hope of defeating Shanghai City alone. As for letting foreign members directly send troops to attack Shanghai City, it was temporarily impossible. Not to mention the technical difficulties of cross-border campaigns across the ocean. The Academy, which had always been silent, was a hurdle that the Silver Hand could not avoid. It was only the 4th year of Gaia, and the academics would never allow Silver Hand to destroy the entire game's ecology. If the Silver Hand were to mess around like this, how could they fight in the future national war? In addition, other members of Silverhand also had to worry about the reaction of domestic grassroots players. If they so blatantly helped Yanhuang Alliance fight a civil war, what would the domestic players think? When the time came, they might not be able to fight in their own backyard. Therefore, in a short period of time, Silverhand would not face Shanghai City head-on. Even if they did, they would use Shanghai City's overseas base and the Grand Line to make a fuss and not attack the China region. Taking 10,000 steps back, even if there were foreign allies, how would Yanhuang Alliance deal with it? Not to mention being unable to raise their heads in Silverhand, they would also be labeled as traitors in China. Using the rules of the national war, Shanghai Alliance could even unite domestic forces to fight against the invaders, completely forcing Yanhuang Alliance to dig their own grave. Even if Silver Hand could really hit Shanghai City, it would be a lose-lose situation. Thinking about it from another perspective, Silver Hand could not hit Shanghai City in China, and Shanghai City did not pose much of a threat to Silver Hand members outside of China region for the time being. There was still a delicate balance between the two for the time being. Therefore, unless it was a last resort, neither the Silver Hand nor Di Chun and the others would take this step. The higher-ups of the Silver Hand were even more worried that the academics would make a fuss about it. If that was the case, it would be fun. The Silver Hands had never relaxed their guard against the academics. A tiger that knew how to endure was terrifying. In comparison, Shanghai City, which was an anomaly, was not that important. Therefore, at times like this, Di Chun and the others had to calm down and think about how to deal with this sudden change. As for the current awkward situation of Overlord City, Di Chun and the others were temporarily powerless. Good luck. Di Chun took pleasure in Shi Yan's misfortune. Xiongba was extremely pleased with himself when he instigated the Seeking Dragon acupuncture point technique. His voice in the alliance had even gone up an octave. It's all good now. Retribution has come. Di Chun and the others left, but Xiongba was cursing in his heart. In addition to cursing, there was more fear. He instigated the Seeking Dragon acupuncture point technique and dug up the foundation of Shanghai City. Who knew if Who Says Wooey would use this as an excuse to launch a crazy revenge on Overlord City? Who Says Wooey was a vengeful person. If that was the case, there would never be peace in Jiangnan province. For a time, the pressure was as heavy as a mountain, and Xiongba, the ambitious and ruthless person, was a little out of breath. People who did not confront it head-on could not feel this kind of pressure. At the thought of this, Xiongba was annoyed with his previous instigation. I'm really muddle-headed. How could I provoke that old fox and get myself into trouble? What was even more annoying was that nothing happened to the person who was poached. Instead, his strength was further improved, and he forcibly took over a province. The person who poached him was in a constant state of anxiety and worked hard for Shanghai City. What the hell is this? The more Xiongba thought about it, the angrier he became. He wondered if Who Says Wooey had long been aware of the rebellion of the Seeking Dragon acupuncture point technique and deliberately used him to get rid of this hidden danger. It was not impossible to put oneself in someone else's shoes. This was the usual style of an ambitious and ruthless person. Xiongba's face was getting darker and darker, but he still had to do what he had to do. In desperation, Xiongba ordered Wu Qi to lead his troops to set up defenses at the border to guard against a surprise attack from Shanghai City. At the same time, he sent a letter to War Wolf to discuss a closer alliance between the two families. At the moment, the only one who could help Overlord City through this crisis was War Wolf, who was also in the south. Fortunately, the two had a good relationship and had a basis for further cooperation. After writing the letter, Xiongba's expression was still not relaxed. Relying on others was only a temporary solution. The key was to strengthen themselves. Thinking of this, Xiongba got up and went to the window, looking into the distance, looking northwest. There was a chaotic Wannan province there. Only by taking this place could Overlord City strengthen its own strength and obtain a strategic buffer zone so that it would not be under the threat of Shanghai City at all times. It was just that Wannan province was full of aristocratic families and various forces, so it was not easy to take it. Xiongba had learned his lesson, and now he thought even further. If Shanghai City suddenly attacked Jiangnan province, while Overlord City was attacking Wannan province, what would happen then? Just thinking about it made his heart cold. This is difficult. Xiongba let out a long sigh, and a rare trace of desolation appeared in his eyes. He muttered to himself, since the southern border has me, Xiongba, why is there a need to say that there is no clothes? Xiongba's lofty aspirations could not be fulfilled, and his hegemony had been thwarted, so his feelings were really complicated. 19th of March, Minnan Province. In just 4 days, Fan Lihua led the brave Tiger Army's 3rd Corps to clear the hidden danger in Longyan County and led hundreds of thousands of troops into Tingzhou County. And as early as a day ago, Ma Chao led the Tiger Leopard Cavalry into Shaowu County. The War of Minnan Province had officially come to an end. The unexpected silence of the Yin-Huang alliance made the few lords who were still stubbornly resisting despair. If they continued to resist, they would only be destroyed. The lords were not stupid, and they would not be Mantis trying to stop a chariot. They helplessly surrendered and minimized their losses. At this point, the situation in Minnan Province had been settled. All that was left was to take over the territory, reorganize the army, and defend the entire Minnan Province. At the same time, they would get rid of all unstable factors and wait for the Southern Border Protectorate to settle the 4 counties of Minnan Province. Under the protection of their personal guards, the 16 lords brought their families and properties with them as they set foot on the road to Shanghai City. In this way, the last obstacle for Shanghai City to take over the 4 counties had been completely swept away. When the news came out, it shook the entire wilderness. No one could have imagined that Shanghai City would do something like this. As time passed, more and more secrets were revealed. First, the dragon-seeking point betrayed Shanghai City and secretly formed an alliance with the Yin-Huang alliance. No one thought that their plan would be so careless, and Shanghai City would find out, and in the end, they would be annihilated. No one would sympathize with the dragon-seeking point's misfortune. Not only did the Yin-Huang alliance fail to steal a share, but they also made a fool of themselves. What was even more shocking was the secret arrangements that Shanghai City had made in Minnan Province. The 10 lords changed sides at the same time. This was not the work of a day, but the result of a long period of planning. If it wasn't for the outbreak of war, who would have thought that Minnan Province was already in Shanghai City's pocket? If one were to think of the similar Jiangchuan Province, it would really make people shudder. There was a rumor that the moment the dragon-seeking point was destroyed, the Black Lion City's lord, the Siege Lion, rushed to Shanghai City to pay a visit to the alliance leader. No one knew what the two talked about. What kind of role would Jiangchuan Province play in the wilderness in the future? On the day that the Siege Lion returned to his territory, he announced a shocking news. Jiangchuan Province's Poyang Lake was officially open to the Shanghai City's Southern Border Fleet unconditionally, and the Southern Border Fleet was allowed to train and station there. This news was really thought-provoking. The more observant players linked up the major events that happened in the wilderness since the Spring Festival and came to a shocking conclusion. Shanghai City and the Yin-Huang Alliance had clashed 3 times in a short period of time. The Yin-Huang Alliance won 2 times and lost 1, and seemed to have the upper hand. However, those with discerning eyes could see that the Yin-Huang alliance was just a spear tip that looked good, but was useless. They won on the periphery, but lost on the core interests. The Yin-Huang alliance seemed to have the upper hand, but in reality, they were defeated by the Shanghai City's shocking attack. After the dragon-seeking point was reincarnated in Xuanzhou's royal city, he unwillingly revealed the Yin-Huang alliance as treachery, which made Xiongba and the others even more embarrassed. The dragon-seeking point's miserable ending just happened to prove a shocking fact. In the wilderness, those who cooperated with the Yin-Huang alliance did not have a good ending and were eventually abandoned. From the Lianzhou Basin lords at the beginning, to the Lingnan city-state, to the Yunnan city-state, and finally the dragon-seeking point, each ending was more miserable than the last. This shocking fact caused the Tingyu Tower, Laojun Temple, Flowing Light Pavilion, and hundreds of large and medium-sized guilds that had just switched to the Yin-Huang alliance to completely explode. The leaders of the guilds gave up the Shanghai alliance, which was more of a promise, and chose the infamous Yin-Huang alliance. What were their intentions? Were there any dirty deals that cannot be told? The ordinary members were extremely excited, and even the higher-ups of the guilds were puzzled. In an instant, the guilds were in a state of turmoil. At this time, there was a rumor that the leaders of these guilds were actually the lackeys of the hidden aristocratic families. In reality, they worked for the aristocratic families to gain their support and naturally did not care about the interests of the ordinary members. The identity of the old Jun family's illegitimate son was also exposed. As soon as the news came out, it completely ignited the anger of the players, causing them to denounce the leaders of the guilds. Traitors. There were two medium-sized guilds that deposed their leaders on the spot. On the other hand, Thundersound and the others were filled with regret. Isn't this retribution coming a little too soon? Chapter 830. Conflicts often gave rise to changes. In this trust crisis, whether it was the removal of the guild leader or the withdrawal of the guild, they were in the minority. The system of the guild's development was already mature, and the internal interests were unclear. It was not that easy to give up, especially for the three giants, Tingyu Tower. No one withdrew from the guild with the satellite city in their hands. Not withdrawing from the guild did not mean that the players were indifferent. How to effectively supervise the guild leader and ensure that the interests of all the players in the guild were not violated or betrayed became a hot topic in the guild circle. Even the internal members of the guilds that weren't involved were having similar discussions. Better safe than sorry. China never lacked smart people. In less than 2 days, someone had come up with a disruptive guild structure. The executor was not a middle-sized guild that was cheated, but one of the giants, Tingyu Tower. Sword Key Thunder was a strong-willed woman. She would not try to shirk the responsibility after making a mistake. Although she had the satellite city in her hands and very few people left, Sword Key Thunder knew very well that she had to take action to keep the hearts of the members and let them unite by her side on Planet Hope. Perhaps, at the moment when Shanghai City captured Dragon Seeking City, the Sword Key Thunderous sound already had a premonition. As soon as the crisis arose, Sword Key Thunder discussed remedial measures with the guild leaders to win back the trust of the members. Sword Key Thunder had worked with Shanghai City for a period of time and learned a thing or two about Ouyang Shua's game philosophy. After thinking for a day and a night, she finally came up with a guild structure that would affect the entire guild circle in the future. It was simple to say. It was to reform the guild into a shareholding system. Guilds established in the game were equivalent to entrepreneurs in reality. The guild leader and a group of elders were the founders and venture partners. Like startups in reality, in the early stages of the development of the guild members had a high degree of trust in the founders and the founders' team, giving them full authorization. Perhaps at this stage, the players had not realized how closely the decisions of the guild leader were related to their own interests. Their original intention of joining the guild might be to find a backer. Since it was a backer, they would naturally obey unconditionally. Furthermore, due to the inertia of traditional games and the constraints of the entire guild system, the ordinary members did not have much room to play. It could even be said that the normal members wouldn't have much interaction with the guild leader. The ones who truly surrounded the guild leader were the guild's upper echelons and elite teams. Because of this, most of the guild's decisions were made by the core members themselves, which indirectly led to the fact that the leader of the guild had the final say. At this stage, the ordinary members did not feel that there was anything wrong with this. Currently, the relationship between the guild and its members was one of mutual dependence, each taking what they needed. There wasn't much conflict of interest between the two because the guild hadn't started profiting yet. By the 4th year of Gaia, the guild had already passed the nascent stage. Especially with the opening of the satellite cities, the hegemonic guilds began to profit. The relationship between the two was undergoing a subtle change. The ordinary members were no longer as calm as before. They began to stare at the guild's profits and think about how much they could get. Since there was a demand for benefits, the normal members naturally wouldn't remain indifferent to the decisions of the guild's higher-ups. Therefore, at this time, the original decision-making mechanism was flawed and modern enterprise management systems needed to be introduced. Otherwise, it would be difficult for a startup to continue growing. In reality, the common practice is to introduce a shareholding system or even go public. And the basic requirement of going public was for the company to establish a modern enterprise management system and financial system. In reality, there were professional evaluation organizations that would evaluate this. Those that failed would not even be able to reach the threshold of going public. Of course, the guild did not need to go public, but the shareholding system reform was imperative. This was the safest and most effective way to ensure the interests of all the members. On the other hand, once the reform was successful, the members would collectively hold shares, deepening their recognition of the guild. Their personal interests and the guild's interests would be closely linked. Once someone harmed the guild's interests, the ordinary members would not let it go, just like the current crisis of trust. Similarly, if an external faction threatened the guild's interests, the ordinary members would not hesitate to fight. As such, the guild's cohesiveness and combat strength would definitely rise to a whole new level. Overall, the benefits outweighed the disadvantages. Therefore, even without the crisis of trust, the shareholding system reform would still be the guild's trend. After all, Earth on Earth was too special. It was not only entertainment, but it was also closely linked to real interests. Collectively holding shares could only share the benefits, but it did not solve the problem of supervising the head of the guild. Therefore, the restructuring of Tingyu Tower, in addition to the reform of shares, also needed to set up a shareholders meeting, elect directors, set up a board of directors, a board of supervisors, and other relevant institutions to ensure that the guild's decision-making was more scientific. In addition to the guild's senior management, the number of directors also needed to be represented by ordinary members. As the chairman, the head of the guild was not only restricted and supervised by the board of directors and the board of supervisors, but also the guild's major decisions had to be collectively voted through the shareholders' meeting. In this way, the head of the guild changed from a high and mighty leader to a professional manager who worked for all the members. Thunderous Sword was undoubtedly very smart, and she had a mind and boldness that ordinary men could not reach. No matter what, this reform had a huge impact on Thunderous Sword's personal interests. It was really amazing that she could give up part of her interests and focus on the guild's long-term development. Therefore, as soon as the shareholding system reform plan of Tingyu Tower was put out, the shock in the guild immediately subsided, and Thunderous Sword's reputation in the guild rose instead of falling. A beautiful crisis public relations, a gorgeous transformation. Bai Shaoxin commented on the reform of Tingyu Tower in the Daily News. Tingyu Tower set a good example. In the following period, other guilds that were caught in the storm, either voluntarily or forced, followed Tingyu Tower and started a round of vigorous shareholding system reform. In this process, many of the guild's senior management, who were not supported and recognized by ordinary members, were mercilessly excluded from the board of directors. On the contrary, some grassroots players who enjoyed a good reputation among ordinary members, with the unanimous recommendation of the big guys, became directors, entered the board of directors, and became the guild's senior management, fighting for the interests of ordinary members. Even some guild leaders who had just escaped a disaster were removed by the shareholders' meeting under the instigation of some guild senior management. They were ruthlessly swept out of the door and became pitiful losers. The other two of the three giants who betrayed the alliance of mountains and seas also had a hard time. Once the identity of old June's illegitimate son was exposed, he immediately encountered the most serious trust crisis in history. He had to publicly promise to sever ties with his family to barely keep his position as the head of the guild. The June family's painstaking plan was ultimately in vain. Old June, the illegitimate son of a wealthy family, was exposed in the wilderness, humiliated and ridiculed, and the rift between him and his family could no longer be repaired. Get lost. If you hadn't provoked me, would I have ended up like this today? Old June was so exasperated that he drove his family members out of the satellite town, including his father. The two of them completely broke up, and it was a farce of father and son killing each other. After such a disturbance, Old June could no longer have a say in Liuguang Pavilion, the guild he founded. For a long time in the future, Old June had to make compromises and concessions. Compared with Old June, Taoist priest Green Ox of Laojun Temple was in a slightly better situation. After all, many of the backbone members of Laojun Temple were acquaintances of Taoist priest Green Ox, so his position was relatively stable. But for a period of time in the future, it was inevitable that Taoist priest Green Ox would have to hide behind others. Similar scenes were staged one after another in the wilderness. There was no doubt that this was a profound reshuffle within the guild. After the reshuffle, it was a great thing for the overall strength of the guild circle in China. Before the reshuffle, no one had expected such a result. Not only the guilds that were in turmoil, but the voices of ordinary members in other guilds were also getting louder and louder. Guild reshuffling was already the general trend. The first to respond to the voices of ordinary members was Snow Rose Mercenary Group. In addition to using the plan of Tingyu Tower, Snow Rose Mercenary Group played a new idea this time. After the unanimous approval of the shareholders' meeting, Xie, the new chairman, represented Snow Rose Mercenary Group and officially invited Ouyang Shua to join the board of directors as an independent director. The cost of the shares was the bed crossbow and divine arm crossbow that Ouyang Shua sent that night. If it weren't for the support of this batch of equipment in the defense battle of Snow Rose Mercenary Group on February 26th, they would have almost fallen under the Wolfpack tactics of Silverhand. Therefore, the members of Snow Rose Mercenary Group were very grateful to Shanghai City. Coupled with the long-term close cooperation and friendly exchanges between the two sides, it was really a matter of course to invite Ouyang Shua to join the board of directors. In this way, the two forces had a connection of interests, and the alliance relationship became more and more solid. After Snow Rose Mercenary Group, One Thread, and Falling Moon Guild, two guilds that were originally in Shanghai City, also completed the reshuffle. Similarly, Ouyang Shua also became an independent director of One Thread. In Falling Moon Guild, Ouyang Shua was a very important director, second only to Sun Xiaoya, the chairman. What Ouyang Shua didn't expect was that after Baleful Mercenary Group completed the reshuffle, Bloody Romance also invited him to be an independent director. However, Baleful Mercenary Group had no objections to Bloody Romance's decision. One had to admit that this was really a very special guild. Chapter 831. Luoyang's capital, Satellite City. The headquarters of the Rain-Savoring Tower was located in the official residence of the city lord of the satellite town, overlooking the entire city in an imposing manner. In the study of the city lord's mansion's western courtyard, Thundersword Chi stood by the window, staring at the distant sky with a desolate expression. There was also a young woman standing behind the thunderous sword energy. She was dressed as a swordsman and looked very capable and experienced. She was the deputy head of the rain-listening tower, Forsaken Tears. Looking at the post-starter's expression, he said with tears in his eyes, "Post-starter, even the baleful Bloody Mercenary Group has invited Lord Tianyi to be an independent director. Can we follow suit and repair our relationship?" Thundersword Chi didn't turn around. He said desolately, "A broken mirror will always have cracks no matter how hard it is repaired. Since we've already betrayed each other, we can't go back anymore. We might as well forget each other in Jianghu." His tears had stopped flowing, and he was speechless. That was the way of the world. There was no medicine for regret, and there was no turning back. Once he took a step forward, he could no longer turn back. In the study, there was a long sigh of sword chi thunder. 1 week ago, March 14th, Shanghai City. After the Imperial Guards conquered the dragon-seeking city, Ouyang Shua shifted his attention back to the capital city advancement mission. The war in Minnan was left to the General Administration of Military Affairs and Hua Tsubing to handle. Ouyang Shua wasn't even in a hurry to make arrangements for the 4 prefectural governors and the army reorganization plan. Minnan province was temporarily under military control, and they would make further plans after Shanghai City was promoted to the capital city. Ouyang Shua no longer paid attention to Minnan. There was another matter that was holding him back, not because of anything else. The examiners sent by the Imperial Court of Dali had finally arrived quietly. On the morning of the 14th, a merchant ship entered the Lianzhou Basin via the Friendship River. Along the way, it did not stop at the Shilao Lake Pier, but directly entered the central pier of Shanghai City. After reaching the shore, the attendants carried down boxes of tea leaves, all of which were high-quality pu or tea. The central pier of Shanghai City was bustling with people. Whenever a merchant ship docked, it would immediately be surrounded by a group of brokers or second-hand dealers. Merchant ships that were not familiar with these merchants would easily be deceived by them and sell their goods directly. As long as a middleman found a suitable buyer, he would be able to earn a sum of money in the process. Knowing that the caravan had actually brought high-quality pu or tea, the second-hand dealer jumped up and down like he had been injected with chicken blood. Because tea leaves sold well overseas and were easy to transport, they were most loved by the great merchants. Once they changed hands, the middleman would earn 20% of the profit. Speaking of which, it was strange. This caravan was probably a newbie or something, but they sold all the tea they had brought at the pier, making the second-hand dealers so happy that they couldn't find their way north. After selling their items, the group strolled around Shanghai City empty-handed. As they strolled, they purchased items that caught their attention. It was as if they were a newly arrived merchant group. Unfortunately, their actions at the pier had already attracted the attention of Shanghai City's secret agents. The higher-ups had given the order to not let any suspicious person go. The spy followed them and found something strange. The leader of this caravan was a middle-aged merchant. There was no doubt that he was a merchant. What was strange was that while this caravan was strolling around, 4 of the workers quietly left the main group and blended into the vast crowd. This time, the leader of the Shanghai guards who was in charge of surveillance was excited. He had a premonition that he had caught a big fish. As he arranged for people to monitor the caravan and the workers who had left, he reported it to the headquarters. After a while, the news reached Ouyang Shua. When Ouyang Shua received the news, he ordered the Shanghai guards to continue monitoring the caravan and not alert the enemy for the time being. At the same time, they could not let their guard down, lest they fall into the enemy's trap. This surveillance basically locked on to the caravan. There was nothing strange about the caravan. The key was the 4 workers who had left the group. The 4 of them seemed to have a division of labor. Some of them wandered around the city, observing the construction and layout of the city, stopping from time to take notes. Some went in and out of the shops and chatted with the workers. Some went into the homes of the commoners and talked about all sorts of things. The last one disguised himself as a scholar and entered the hall of Southwest University, China. They thought that they had done it secretly, but they did not know that they had fallen into the eyes of the secret agents of Shanghai City. Since there were no problems with the mock assessment led by Jiang Shang, and it could even be said to be very good, some of the minor problems have been dealt with in the past few days. Ouyang Shua did not do anything superfluous and arranged for the 4 of them to do their own assessment. Ouyang Shua wanted to see if they could fabricate something out of nothing. The afternoon passed in the blink of an eye. In the evening, the caravan found an inn to stay for the night. The travel permit they used was issued by the Dali Imperial Court. According to the rules of Shanghai City, traveling merchants had to have travel permits. Otherwise, they would not be able to stay. The 4 workers who had left the group also quietly met up with the main group in the evening. They looked a little dejected, but they did not manage to find anything that could be used against Shanghai City during the day. Another day passed, and everything was as usual. Ouyang Shua sat in the study and calmly waited. As long as these people did not reveal their identities, Ouyang Shua was not prepared to expose them. He wanted to see what tricks they had up their sleeves. The incident happened on the morning of the 16th. That morning, the main group of the Chamber of Commerce walked into a watch shop owned by a Westerner. It seemed that they were preparing to purchase a batch of clocks. It was not strange at first. However, not long after, this group of people became unreasonable. They insisted that the workers in the shop dismantle the clocks and let them see the internal structure before they could buy them. How could the workers agree to such a rude request? Even if they agreed, the workers were all locals of Shanghai City and would not dismantle the clocks. This time, they were furious. Without saying a word, they began to smash things in the shop. The workers tried to stop them, but they were beaten up by the followers. One of the workers was pushed down by one of the followers. His head hit the clocks, and blood immediately flowed from his head. The commotion at the front door finally alerted the shopkeeper in the back hall. The shopkeeper was a British merchant. When he saw this situation, he immediately became angry and asked his worker to report it to the authorities. In less than 10 minutes, the bailiffs of Shanghai City arrived at the scene and brought the group of people to the Yamen for interrogation. When the secret agent of the Shanghai guards who had been in charge of surveillance saw this, he became anxious and quickly reported it to the authorities. When Ouyang Shuo received the news, he frowned. According to the territory code, causing trouble and injuring someone would be sentenced to at least 3 months in prison. The problem was, if that was the case, what would happen to the assessment mission? However, the case had already been taken over by the Shanghai City Internal Affairs Bureau, so Ouyang Shuo could not interfere immediately. He only instructed Wei Yang to keep an eye on the case. On the morning of the 17th, after the case had been investigated, Ouyang Shuo summoned Wei Yang to ask for the opinion of the Internal Affairs Bureau. According to the verdict of the Shanghai City Internal Affairs Bureau, the merchant leader was sentenced to 3 months in prison, and the followers who had participated in the smashing of the clocks were sentenced to 4 months in prison. As for the follower who had injured the workers in the shop, he was sentenced to 6 months in prison. In addition, the Chamber of Commerce had to compensate the financial losses of the watch shop and the medical expenses of the injured. The entire sentence was fair, just, and open. Originally, this was not a big deal. After all, the examiners that the Shanghai guards had targeted were the 4 workers who had secretly investigated. Even if these people were sentenced, it would not affect the assessment mission. The problem was whether it was a coincidence or intentional. When the caravan entered the watch shop, the worker in charge of inspecting the shop followed them in and even participated in the smashing of the clocks. This was simply nonsense. Official Wei, how do you think this case should be handled? Ouyang Shuo asked. Wei Yang knew the inside story, but his attitude was firm. He said, "My lord, no matter who it is, as long as they break the law, they must be punished according to the law. There is no favoritism." Ouyang Shuo said awkwardly. Then what about the assessment mission? Do we have to wait until 4 months later? If there is no other way, then we can only wait. Ouyang Shuo was speechless. For months later, the daylilies had all turned cold. Can you let that worker off alone? Ouyang Shuo tried to ask. He really wanted Shanghai City to become a capital city as soon as possible. This not only affected the establishment of Shanghai City, but also affected Ouyang Shuo's conjecture about the capital city's satellite city. If this dragged on for too long, Ouyang Shuo was worried that something would happen to the Dream House and the Shadow Alliance. Even if it was the Breeze Pavilion, they wouldn't be able to hold on for so long without their satellite cities. Wei Yang said, "My lord, if we show favoritism and let that worker off, then where is the dignity of the territory code? How can we talk about judicial fairness? Without judicial fairness, the territory code will not be able to pass the imperial court's assessment. In that case, the assessment mission will be a complete failure." Ouyang Shuo was shocked. He was so anxious that he lost his mind. He said, "You mean to say that this is a trap set by the other party? Their intention is to lure us into favoritism and ruin the advancement mission?" Wei Yang nodded and said, "Very likely. I have a detailed understanding of the case. According to the witnesses, the other party is completely unreasonable and unreasonable. What is even stranger is that worker. His timing was too coincidental, and he even participated in the smashing. If he is the examiner, then this is too absurd." Ouyang Shuo was 80% convinced by Wei Yang's words. The other party thought that they had done it secretly, but they did not know that their every move was under the control of the Shanghai guards. That was why they came up with such an absurd idea. Ouyang Shuo made up his mind and decided to believe Wei Yang's judgment. He said, "All right, this case will be judged as it should be. I will not show favoritism or protect. If the heavens want Shanghai City to delay for 4 months, I will accept it. My lord is wise." Wei Yang had a gratified expression on his face as he respectfully bowed. The development of the matter was as Wei Yang had predicted. The 3 workers who did not participate in the smashing were placed under house arrest in the end. When they saw that Shanghai City was serious and wanted to sentence them according to the law, they changed into official robes and revealed their identities as examiners. Ouyang Shua gave them enough face and personally went to the inn to welcome them. Chapter 832. 18th day of the 3rd month of the 4th year of Gaia, Southern Border Protectorate. The 3 examiners came to the main hall of the Protectorate. Their first request was to release the caravan that had been sentenced. Ouyang Shua naturally could not agree to it. He said, "Unfortunately, they have violated Shanghai City's territory code. Even as a lord, I have no right to interfere with the sentencing of the Punishment Bureau." The trio turned anxious as they said, "One of them is also an examiner. At the very least, release him, right?" Ouyang Shua shook his head once again. "Without him, we won't be able to complete the assessment." The trio began to threaten him with the assessment mission. Ouyang Shua smiled. He had already discussed this matter with Wei Yang and had come up with a solution. He said, "In view of this special situation, according to the special provisions of the Territory Code, I can allow that lord to carry out limited and monitored activities. After the assessment is over, he will be sent back to prison to continue serving his sentence." The trio was immediately dumbfounded. Ouyang Shua continued, "Lords, please rest assured. That lord will not receive any unfair treatment in prison. After serving his sentence, I will personally arrange for someone to send that lord back to Dali. That's all we can do." Although the trio had received orders, they did not dare to openly threaten a lord like Ouyang Shua. After coming to an agreement, the trio introduced themselves. Including the lord serving his sentence, the 4 came from the Dali Imperial Court's Ministry of Rights, Ministry of Personnel, Ministry of Revenue, and Ministry of War. They were all officials of the 5th grade. The person leading them was Minister of Rights, Lord He. After a while, Minister of Revenue, Lord Li, was escorted to the Protectorate's main hall by the Punishment Bureau's bailiffs. For the following assessment, this lord would be protected by bailiffs 24 hours a day. Lord Li clearly knew the outcome of the negotiation. His face was grief-stricken. He never expected that he would be thrown into prison because of an assessment. Even if he returned to Dali, he would not be able to face anyone. The leader, Lord He, went straight to the point. "Lord Protectorate, we have completed the assessment of Shanghai City's culture, commerce, popular sentiment, as well as the city's construction. Now, only the Army and the R&D department are left. Lord, please allow us to conduct an on-site inspection so that we can give a fair judgment." Seeing is believing. Ouyang Shua's eyes narrowed. They were using this opportunity to pry into the core secrets of Shanghai City. Sure, Ouyang Shua could not refuse. He wanted to see what these few civil officials could figure out. As he spoke, Ouyang Shua called for Du Ruhui and introduced her. "My lords, this is the Director of Military Affairs of the Southern Border Protectorate. From now on, Lord Du will accompany all of you on your inspection. Sir Du will arrange for whatever you want to ask and whatever important military places you want to enter." When official he saw this, he nodded his head in satisfaction and said, "This is very good. Sirs, please." Du Ruhui understood and led the 4 to the camp of the Imperial Guards for inspection. After that, they would go to military workshops, shipyards, steel mills, artillery production bases, and other places, all of which were important military sites. Another day passed by in this investigation. On the morning of the 19th, the 4 of them were in a side hall arranged by Ouyang Shua for the final assessment. Although according to Du Ruhui's report, the 4 of them had been rather well behaved during the inspection yesterday and hadn't picked on any faults on the spot, Ouyang Shua was still a little nervous. He was afraid that he had overlooked something and the other party would take advantage of it. This group of people came with ill intentions. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it was finally time for the verdict. In the main hall, other than the guilty Sir Li, the other 3 people looked normal and nothing could be seen. As the leader of the assessment team, official he made the final assessment statement and said, "I hope that the Protectorate Manor will know that the 4 of us, under the orders of the Emperor, have conducted a comprehensive assessment of Shanghai City through 5 days of open and secret investigations. Finally, we have come to a consensus that this assessment has passed. Congratulations, sir." Almost at the same time, The sound of a system notification rang in Ouyang Shua's ears. System notification. Congratulations to player. Don't say you don't have clothes for Capital City Advancement Mission 1, Imperial Court Assessment. You have achieved good scores in all 5 areas: politics, economy, culture, technology, and military. Mission complete. These people were really black-hearted. The mock assessment organized by Jiangshang had all 5 areas to worry about, but all of them had turned into good scores. If it wasn't for the fact that Shanghai City had no loopholes, these people might have really been black-hearted and failed. Fortunately, I finally passed. Just 2 days ago, the 3rd mission, New Type of Soldiers, had been completed. Of the 3 capital city advancement missions, only the 2nd mission, 36 lines, had not been completed. During this period of time, all the prefectures and counties had carefully investigated the people under their jurisdiction. They didn't even let go of the villages. Regrettably, not to mention the southern Sichuan, Yunnan, and Lingnan provinces, they didn't even find the divination which in the newly conquered Minnan province. This mysterious, which had suddenly become the biggest obstacle to Shanghai City's advancement to the capital city. I might have to use my trump card, Ouyang Shua thought to himself. Ouyang Shua raised his head and revealed a warm smile. Thank you for your hard work, sir. We're just following orders. Lord, he revealed a smile and said casually, Lord Protectorate, now that the assessment is over, can you let Lordly go? Rest assured, when we return to Dali, I will definitely report this to His Majesty and punish Lordly. What do you think? Lordly also revealed an expectant expression when he heard this. Ouyang Shua smiled and shook his head firmly. I've said it before, I have no right to interfere with the Disciplinary Bureau's investigation. I'm really powerless. Lord Li's face was ashen. Lord Li's face instantly turned ashen. He said stiffly, Then I'll take my leave. Wait. What else do you want, sir? Lord He asked coldly. Ouyang Shua smiled and didn't mind. He said, Lord He, when you return, please send my regards to your young Master Duan. Tell him that I'll remember the incident at the Breeze Pavilion. You. Lord He's face changed drastically, and his voice trembled. Ouyang Shua was even more certain that the young Master Duan he mentioned wasn't an NPC, but a player. This person was like Caesar, reincarnating as a member of the royal family as soon as he entered the game. It was said that this person's family was a descendant of the Duan family of Dali. No wonder he had such a fortuitous encounter. In his previous life, although this person couldn't compare to the one in the capital, he was still very famous in the wilderness. The real time to make this person famous and shake the wilderness would have to wait until the Duan family of Dali took over the royal city of Dali. The Duan family of Dali's royal family started in 937 AD and ended in 1254 AD. They had 24 emperors and ruled for 318 years, spanning 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms, as well as the Song dynasty and the Yuan dynasty. The Duan style of Dali in demigods and semi-devils referred to this royal family in history. Of course, the real Duan Zhengshun and his son Duan Heyu, also known as Duan Yu, were not as ridiculous as in the novel. Both father and son ascended the throne, and Duan Yu was the longest reigning emperor of the Dali royal family. During his reign, he was diligent and loved the people. He was a good emperor. However, due to his sons vying for the throne, he was vexed and became a monk in his later years. Precisely because the two of them were the most famous, Gaia chose Duan Zhengshun as the emperor of Dali, while Duan Yu appeared in the royal city of Dali as a prince. The young Master Duan who reincarnated as a member of the royal family was named Duan Hong. He was ambitious. From the beginning of the game, he had been plotting how to seize the throne and control the royal city of Dali, becoming the overlord of the wilderness. After Duan Yu appeared, the two of them had a fierce battle over the position of crown prince. It was precisely because of the battle that Duan Hong became famous in the wilderness and was known to ordinary players. Therefore, when the Breeze Pavilion was deliberately made difficult by the Dali court, Ouyang Shua thought of this person. The person who had instructed the 4 doctors to pry into the secrets of Shanghai City was definitely this person. Ouyang Shua naturally had to take revenge for this. Lordy looked deeply at Ouyang Shua, cupped his fists, and left, leaving Lordly alone with a desolate expression. 20th of March, Shanghai City. In a quiet study, Ouyang Shua held a special card in his hand, his expression uncertain. Restricted summon card, king level after use. A random summon could be changed to a restricted summon. Friendly reminder. This card is only effective on people below the king level. This special card was specially given to him by the Siege Lion when he visited. The Siege Lion had obtained this card by accident. He had wanted to recruit a general after obtaining the king-level summoning talisman. But when he found out that Shanghai City's capital advancement mission was blocked, he specially gave this card to Ouyang Shua. Vaguely, there was a sense of loyalty. With this card, Ouyang Shua would be able to use the Recruitment Hall's monthly special talent recruitment opportunity to recruit a divination, which, completing the last capital advancement mission. It was just that using such a precious card to summon a special talent was truly a reckless waste of God's gift. Therefore, unless it was absolutely necessary, Ouyang Shua was not willing to use this card. Since the first mission, Imperial Court Examination, was completed, Ouyang Shua could not delay it any longer. Forget it. If it's a waste, then so be it. Thinking of this, Ouyang Shua got up and left the study, heading to the recruitment hall alone. System notification detected that the recruitment hall still has a chance to recruit a special talent. Do you want to recruit? Ouyang Shua did not reply, but took out the restricted summon card. System notification detected a special tool, restricted summon card. It can change the chance to recruit a special talent to a specific job. Do you want to use this tool? Use. System notification. The tool has been successfully used. Please specify the job of the special talent. Divination Witch. System notification. Job locked. Do you want to start recruitment? Recruit. A white light flashed, and a divination witch walked out from the teleportation circle. Seeing this, Ouyang Shua heaved a sigh of relief, and the system notification sounded in his ears again. System notification. Congratulations to player. Don't say you have no clothes. Capital Advancement Mission 2, 36 lines completed. Chapter 833. Ouyang Shua arrived at the main hall of the Protectorate Manor and opened the Territory Control panel. He clicked on the Territory Advancement button and heard the pleasant sound of a system notification. System notification. Congratulations to player. Not say you have nothing. You have completed all 3 advancement quests. Do you want to advance? Yes. The Territory Stone Steel rose again, and a golden light shot into the sky. This golden light was more dazzling than any of the previous ones. There was even a hint of nobility in the golden light. It was daunting. The pure golden light exploded in the sky and turned into a huge golden halo. It spread in all directions at the speed of light, sweeping across Shanghai City, Lianzhou Basin, Chuanan Province, South Cloud Province, South Ridge Province, South Min Province, Cheong Prefecture County, Yi Prefecture County, Star Prefecture County, Friendship City, Bay City, and so on. Wherever Shanghai City's territory was located, wherever its soldiers pointed, they were all protected by the golden light. The commoners who saw the golden light all prostrated themselves in worship. Right at this moment, a loud and clear dragon roar resounded in the sky above Shanghai City. The layers of white clouds dispersed, revealing a towering dragon that stretched for hundreds of miles in length. It was like a mountain that had existed since ancient times. It was simple and leisurely. The purple scales, shrouded in the golden light, looked even more noble and dazzling. When he conquered Minnan Province, the Dragon of Providence was nourished and was on the verge of advancing. Now that it was nourished by the mysterious golden light, it finally broke the last shackle and advanced to the 3rd rank. The purple dragon was the foundation of a dynasty. The Tier 3 purple dragon's entire body had already turned solid, and there was no longer a trace of illusory aura. The sound of a system notification rang in Ouyang Shua's ears. System notification. Congratulations to player. Not say you have nothing. The Dragon of Providence has evolved to the 3rd rank. purple dragon. The territory's providence has increased greatly, and the weather is favorable. Rewarding player, fortune source, 15 points as encouragement. Just like when it advanced to the red dragon, the purple dragon swept its tail, and spiritual rain fell again. This time, the spiritual rain was denser, and the effect was stronger. It was the beginning of spring. With the nourishment of the spiritual rain, herbs, mulberry trees, and other crops grew at a visible speed. The wild grass and small flowers that covered the wilderness filled up the entire wilderness in an instant, leaving no space for anything to grow. Such auspiciousness was the sign of a prosperous era. Affected by this, the popular support that had been stuck at a bottleneck finally broke through 100. When his Dragon of Providence became a red dragon, his territory's popular support had already reached 99 points. More than half a year had passed, and the popular support had increased several times, but it was only at the rate of a decimal point, and it had stopped at 998 points. This time, he finally took a step forward and reached 100 points. Ouyang Shua heard the sound of the system's notification again. System notification. Congratulations, player. Don't say you don't have clothes. Your territory's people's sentiment has reached 100 points. You have been rewarded with a people's tower that hides the hearts of the people. Congratulations, player. Name: Wanmin Tower. Type: hidden building. Function: randomly recruit an honest and upright official every year. Characteristics: special talent attraction rate increased by 20, territory popularity increased by 5. Description: water can carry a boat, but it can also overturn it. The king would be invincible if the hearts of the people followed him. A gratified smile appeared on the corners of Ouyang Shua's mouth when he saw this. It really was double happiness. Not only had his fortune source increased by 15 points and completely escaped the fate of being the god of misfortune, he'd even obtained a hidden building. From Gaia's wording, it was likely that every territory whose people's sentiment exceeded 100 would be rewarded with a building that hides the hearts of the people. Shanghai City was the first territory in the world to exceed 100 points, so it received the highest grade of building that hides the hearts of the people. At the mention of honest and upright officials, the figures of Bao Zheng, Hai Rui, and Di Renjia flashed across Ouyang Shua's mind. Hai Rui was already working in Shanghai City, so Bao Zheng and Di Renjia were even more worth looking forward to. Especially Di Renjia, who was a top-notch detective. The golden light dissipated, and the promotion benefits for the capital city arrived one after another. The sound of system notifications kept flashing in Ouyang Shua's ears. System notification. Congratulations, player. Don't say you don't have clothes. Your territory has been upgraded to a capital city. The Southern Border Protectorate has been automatically upgraded. Please check for yourself. Due to the need to establish a nation, the Southern Border Protectorate is being rebuilt into a palace. The system's upgrade was only an upgrade to the existing buildings, so it did not conflict with the construction of the palace. System notification. Congratulations, player. Don't say you don't have clothes. Your territory has been upgraded to a capital city. After the promotion, a territory teleportation array will be added. Please select the location of the teleportation array. Friendly reminder: the teleportation array's location is not limited to Shanghai City. It can be built in any territory city. Another teleportation array. Ouyang Shua thought for a while and decided to build the teleportation array in the newly conquered dragon-seeking city. There was not a single teleportation array in the South Min province, so it was not beneficial to the territory's rule over the province. Moreover, after the teleportation array in dragon-seeking city was opened, it would be a good weapon to defend against the South River province. If Xiongba really had the ability to incite the other members of the Yanhuang alliance to launch a surprise attack, Ouyang Shua would be able to teleport his army to the front lines at any time with the teleportation array in dragon-seeking city. Only then could he ensure the safety of the territory's eastern border. I choose dragon-seeking city. System notification. Location selection complete. Teleportation array forming. What Ouyang Shua felt regretful about was that after being promoted to a capital city, there was no longer the benefit of changing the landscape of a county city. Perhaps from Gaia's point of view, changing the landscape after reaching the capital city would be a waste of effort. Therefore, Gaia gave out a new benefit. System notification. Congratulations to player, don't say you have nothing to wear, you have leveled up your territory to a capital city. 12 gold men will be specially bestowed to guard the capital city, ensuring the stability of the country and its people. Following the sound of the system notification, golden light continuously flashed outside the northern gate of Shanghai City. 12 bronze men of different shapes and sizes suddenly appeared on both sides of the official road, looking awe-inspiring. Even if one were to look north from the Protectorate's main hall, they would be able to vaguely see the 12 guards. It was a spectacular sight. 12 gold men, a special type of combat puppet. Usually, they act as statues and stand still. When the city is under threat of war, they will automatically activate and protect the city. Back then, Emperor Qin Shi Huang collected all the soldiers in the world to prevent the common people from rebelling and cast them into 12 bronze statues. Gaia was rather interesting to directly transform the 12 gold men into combat puppets. Yang Shua did not know how powerful these puppets were, but they should be comparable to Atlantis combat puppets. Ouyang Shua had long been envious of Atlantis combat puppets. Now that he had obtained 12 of them at once, it was really satisfying and delightful. According to Gaia's settings, the number of gold men rewarded would decrease by 2. The second place in the China server to be promoted to a capital city would only receive 10 gold men. The third place would receive 8 gold men, and so on. At the 7th place, there would be nothing other than the unique 12 gold men. That was unique to China. There's also a reward that Ouyang Shua had been longing for. System notification. Congratulations to player, don't say you have nothing to wear for leveling up your territory to a capital city. After leveling up, a satellite city will be added to guard the entrance to the underworld. Player, please select the location of the satellite city. Friendly reminder, the satellite city's location is not limited to the surroundings of Shanghai City. As long as it is within the territory, it can be built. Hearing the system notification, Ouyang Shua's heart that had been hanging in suspense finally relaxed. This time, he finally had an explanation for bright moon illuminates the river, shadow fox, and dream clouds devouring top. The future satellite city would have a conservative estimate of more than 3 million players. With such a large number of players gathered in a city, it was difficult to feel at ease. Even if the satellite city could be guarded by guilds related to Shanghai City, such as Breeze Pavilion, Shadow Alliance, and Dream Brothel, Ouyang Shua did not dare to place the satellite city in Lianzhou Basin. It was too risky. Ouyang Shua thought for a moment and decided to place the satellite city in South Sichuan Province's Xuanzhou County. It would be placed in the outskirts of Tianjin City. Firstly, Tianjin City was a huge city. It had established a solid foundation during the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom, so it had the ability to provide services and security for the satellite city. Secondly, Tianjin City was not far from Shanghai City. It would only take 2 days to travel by relay station, making it very convenient. Thirdly, the satellite city was separated from Lianzhou Basin by the Mulan Fortress, with the fortress guarding it. Even if something were to happen, it would be able to hold out until the arrival of the army to rescue the emperor. After that, Ouyang Shua would instruct the military headquarters to order the 2nd City Guard Army, led by Mu Guiying, to move to the Mulan Fortress. Mu Guiying had participated in the construction of the Mulan Fortress. With Mu Guiying guarding it, Ouyang Shua could rest easy. Of course, all of this was just a precaution. The possibility of something happening was very small. In the future, only guilds and players that Ouyang Shua trusted could be stationed in the satellite city. At the same time, to ensure loyalty, Ouyang Shua would strengthen his control over these guilds to ensure that both sides shared the same interests. Choose the outskirts of Tianjin City. Ouyang Shua replied. System notification. Location selection complete. Satellite City in process. Along with the system notification, a dazzling golden light flashed in the outskirts of Tianjin City. Like a mushroom cloud from a nuclear explosion, the golden light soared into the sky. It could be seen clearly even from 1,000 miles away. When the golden light dissipated, a brand new city stood in the wilderness. The city was 10 miles long and wide. Whether it was the city walls or the buildings, it was a simplified version of Shanghai City. Unlike the royal city and the satellite city, Ouyang Shuo, as the Lord, could personally decide which guild to guard the satellite city. He didn't have to fight over the satellite city like before. At this point, the basic rewards for Shanghai City's promotion to a capital city were given out. Following that, a series of system announcements rang out. System announcement. Congratulations to player not wearing nothing for becoming the first lord to be promoted to a capital city in the China server. Achievement points awarded, 100,000. Congratulations. For a territory in the wilderness, being promoted to a capital city was a completely new step. It was a symbolic event. Therefore, Gaia was generous for once and rewarded him with 100,000 merit points. Don't look down on 100,000 achievement points. It was already equivalent to the harvest from a war. As soon as the announcement came out, the China server was in an uproar again. All players waited with rapt attention, ready to witness another highlight of the China server. Chapter 834. P.S. Let's go all out. Everyone, throw your tickets at me. Following the system announcement, the world announcement that China players were looking forward to was heard. World announcement. Congratulations to China player for becoming the first lord in the world to level up to a capital city. Reward. 150,000 achievement points, 200,000 reputation points. Shanghai City is bestowed with the title of #1 city in the world. Another 150,000 achievement points, a reward that would make all the lords in the world jealous. World announcement. Congratulations to China's player. Don't say you have clothes for becoming the first lord to level up to a capital city. You have been rewarded with a hidden structure, true dragon pool, and a god-tier summoning talisman. The moment the announcement was made, the entire world was in an uproar. Ouyang Shuo believed that at this moment, all the lords in the world were envious. Hidden amulets and godly summoning amulets were things that all lords dreamed of. Gaia's reward this time was really generous. At this moment, the members of Silver Hand that were scattered around the world were probably feeling complicated. The facts proved that the anomaly in their eyes was far stronger than they had imagined. Thinking of Shanghai City's recent actions in taking over Minnan Province, it was meaningless to not raise the danger level of Ouyang Shuo, the anomaly. This was because at this moment, Ouyang Shuo and his Shanghai City stood at a whole new height, a height that they had to look up to. This was no longer something that could be described as an anomaly, but an opponent, a true opponent that was evenly matched. The battle between the two would never end, and they had to give it their all. At this moment, the China Forum was in a state of jubilation, sharing the glory. Be it normal players, guild leaders, or even wilderness lords, they all sent their congratulations to Roland. This was because this was the glory of the entire China region. The strong rise of Shanghai City was a good example of the China region being the most powerful region in the world. Not only did it have a deep foundation and a long history, but even the Lord of China region was worthy of being the #1 in the world. Such a glory was naturally worthy of being written about. With the disclosure of the satellite cities, Shanghai City's plan to recruit 5 million players would become extremely smooth. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that Shanghai City, which had the protection of the capital city, a vast territory, and 1 million soldiers, had already surpassed the 9 great king cities to become the most powerful force in the China region. Since that was the case, what reason did the players have to refuse Shanghai City's invitation? When Bright Moon illuminates the Great River and the other 2 guild leaders receive the news, they were beyond excited. They knew that the most difficult period of the guild had passed. Ouyang Shuo had fulfilled his promise. However, Shanghai City was only a satellite city. After all, how were the three guilds going to settle down? Who was going to be the Guardian Guild? This was indeed a difficult choice. Bright Moon illuminates the river thought for a moment. He felt that this problem shouldn't be put on Ouyang Shua's shoulders. They needed to coordinate it themselves. That afternoon, Bright Moon illuminates the river, headed to the capital to discuss matters with Mechanical Shadow Fox and Devouring Dream Clouds. They had to come up with a plan that was acceptable to all three parties before Ouyang Shua officially made his decision. From the town level to the county level, then the county level, and finally the capital level, Shanghai City continued to hold the throne of number one in the world. No one could shake it, and it created a legend of the wilderness. An unprecedented legend that would never be replicated. Gaia naturally wouldn't be indifferent to this. Another global announcement sounded. World announcement. Congratulations to the China server's player who says that has no clothes. The territory under your command has continuously held the title of number one town, number one county, and number one capital. Special reward. 150,000 achievement points, 200,000 reputation points, 3 million gold coins, and a special reward as a commendation. Another bombshell. The players all over the world were already numb to it. Some things couldn't be envied. Among the series of rewards given by Gaia, just the most basic achievement points had earned Ouyang Shua 400,000 points. It was enough to raise the two rookies all the way to first-grade marquises. Globally, there were less than 200 first-grade marquises. It was truly infuriating to compare oneself to others. The name of Shanghai City was destined to become a global miracle. As soon as the global announcement ended, Ouyang Shua heard the sound of a system notification. System notification. Congratulations to player who says that has no clothes for obtaining a special reward. Do you wish to receive it now? Ouyang Shua was taken aback. He asked, "What's a special reward?" System notification. The special reward is a random reward. Special items, weapons, secret manuals, and strange encounters are all possible. Ouyang Shua hated randomness the most. Receive it. No matter what the reward was, he would think about it after receiving it. System notification. Starting special reward drawing. System notification. Congratulations to player who says that has no clothes for obtaining a strange reward. Territory Guardian Beast, Murphy, has evolved into a divine beast, Qilin, and has become a divine beast guarding the country. Congratulations! In the first year of Gaia, Ouyang Shua captured a male and female Nian during the Nian activities on New Year's Eve. Not long after, the pair of Nians gave birth to a female and a female Nians. The male Nians was Ouyang Shua's current mount, Little Green, which was already a quasi-divine beast. The female Nians was called Murphy and had always been by its mother's side. The male Nians from the previous generation later became the mount of the fierce general, Evil Lai. He changed his name to Rakshasa and followed Evil Lai to conquer the world. The female Nians had always been living in seclusion on the back mountain of the Protectorate. With Murphy, today, the two Nians had already matured. Ouyang Shua did not expect that Murphy would have such an opportunity to evolve into a divine beast before Little Green. As Murphy was a female Nians, it had a more gentle temperament. It was indeed more suitable to be a divine beast guarding the country than Little Green. Name, Murphy, divine beast, belonging, divine beast race, black jade Qilin talent. Divination can be used to divine good or bad fortune for an army. Talent. Water manipulation. Combat power in water increases by 150, unobstructed in the sea. Skill. Fire breath. Spits out a stream of energy flames that causes great damage and has a burning effect. Characteristics. Deterrence. Increases security of the territory by 45. Has a natural deterrence to beasts in the sea. Increases security of the territory by 45. Guardian. Increases defense of the territory by 40. Evaluation. Qilin has the head of a lion, the antlers of a deer, the eyes of a tiger, the body of a moose, the scales of a dragon, and the tail of an ox. Its tail is hairy like a dragon's tail and has a fleshy corner. It is a traditional auspicious beast in China. It has a gentle temperament and does not harm living beings. It can live for 2,000 years. Legend has it that wherever a qilin appears, there will be auspicious signs. As expected of a divine beast, Murphy's attributes were much higher than Little Green's. After drawing the special reward, Ouyang Shua checked the attributes of the hidden building, the True Dragon Pool. Name: True Dragon Pool. Type: Hidden building. Function: can arrange for one general to enter the True Dragon Pool every month. There's a certain chance of breaking through a bottleneck. Characteristics: unique talent attraction rate increased by 20, territory popularity increased by 5, description: True Dragon Guard, Dragon Blood Baptism. The Emperor's side is bound to have fierce warriors. Good heavens, another very useful hidden building. With the True Dragon Pool, local generals like Zhao Sihu, Jiang Kai, and Shi Hu, as well as historical generals with potential like Luo Shixin and Qin Xiong, would welcome a great opportunity. Shanghai City's army of generals was bound to grow stronger. Following that, Ouyang Shua took out the god-level summoning talisman that Gaia had rewarded him with. He wanted to see which general or god-level subject he could summon. Tearing the summoning talisman apart, a white light flashed. When the white light dissipated, an old man dressed like a scholar appeared in the main hall. He had a handsome face, a determined expression, and was dressed in plain clothes. When the old man saw Ouyang Shua, he bowed and said, "Your humble servant, Ko Zhuan, greets the Lord." Ouyang Shua was overjoyed. He personally helped Ko Zhuan up and said, Good. Old Ko, you've come to solve my urgent problem." He had been worrying about the future cabinet, which only had Jiang Shang. Now, with a famous subject like Ko Zhuan, the cabinet was established. Ko Jin, courtesy name Pingzhong, was a northern Song politician, poet, and scholar. He was awarded the title of Dali Judge, Guizhou's Badong County, later renamed Daimyo Prefecture's Qingan County. He was the deputy minister of the imperial court and the judge of Yinzhou. He was summoned to the Academy of Scholars and was awarded the title of Right Jingyan and Directorate of History. He was appointed as the 3rd Division's prefect and judge of salt and iron. He was a fellow prefect of the Privy Council and participated in political affairs. After that, he became a minister twice. He was appointed as the Privy Council envoy and then the envoy minister. In the first year of Qinsheng, he was demoted several times. He eventually joined the army in Liezhou and died of illness. Ko Zhuan was famous among the officials of Emperor Taizong of Song for his straightforwardness and wisdom. He was compared to Wei Zheng by Emperor Taizong of Song. An upright official like Ko Zhuan had rich experience in politics. He could judge cases, strategize, understand military affairs, and was an honest and clean official. He was the best candidate for the position of cabinet elder. How could Ouyang Shua not be happy? Name: Ko Zhuan, god level. Title: one of the 10 famous ministers in History Dynasty. Northern Song identity: Shanghai City official. Occupation: civil official. Loyalty: 70 points. Commander: 85 martial power, 45 intelligence, 90 politics, 95 specialty. Famous minister: increases the territory's incorruptibility by 45, increases the territory's efficiency by 25, increases the territory's culture level by 15, increases the territory's governance level by 30. Book: Ko Zhuan means. Poetry collection. Evaluation: Ko Zhuan is upright and generous. He forgets about his country, upholds the Tao, and fights against evil. This is something that few officials in the court can compare to. He is not liked by the common people. After looking at Ko Zhuan's attributes, Ouyang Shua shouted outside, "Come, Lord." Ouyang Shua said, "Ask Lord Xiao to come." "Yes, Lord Xiao." The office of the General Administration of Administration was right next to the Protectorate Manor. Xiao He quickly rushed over. Ouyang Shua took the opportunity to introduce Ko Zhuan to Xiao He. He smiled and said, "Help me entertain Elder Ko." Xiao He cupped his fists and said, "Congratulations, Lord, on getting another official." After the two of them met, Xiao He led Ko Zhuan out of the main hall. The structure of Shanghai City was huge. If Ko Zhuan wanted to integrate into it, It would take more than 1 or 2 days. To be hired as a cabinet elder, one had to be familiar with and approve of the system of Shanghai City. Otherwise, it would just be a decoration, which was not in line with Ouyang Shua's original intention. Chapter 835. After sending Ko Zhuan off, Ouyang Shua finally had the time to check Shanghai City stats. Name: Shanghai City, #1 capital in the world, overlord. How do I have no clothes titles? Holy land of the 100 families, holy land of craftsmen, land of martial prosperity, home of spirit beast population, 2 million / administered territory. Yunnan Province, Chuanan Province, Lingnan Province, and Minnan Province characteristics. Omitted fate. Purple Dragon, Grade 3. Popular support, 100 out of 100 public security, 95 out of 100 politics, 97 out of 100. Determines administrative efficiency, affects popular. Support, economy, 95 out of 100. Determines trade prosperity, affects taxes. Culture, 97 out of 100. Determines education, affects quality of residence. Technology, 88 out of 100. Determines territories at scientific research standard, affects technology tree. Military, 94 out of 100. Determines military strength, affects stable relationships. Hidden buildings, recruitment hall, Silver Wish Tower, general selection platform, Tower of Myriad People, True Dragon Pool. After checking Shanghai City stats, Ouyang Shua's first impression was that it was concise. It had the feeling of going from simple to complex, and then from complex back to simple. After being promoted to a capital city, there was no population limit, and there was no longer any need for refugees to spawn. There was no list of basic buildings, and it was up to the overlord to build whatever he wanted. There are no more restrictions, and it was up to the overlord to decide. The only things that remained unchanged were the 5 attributes of the territory. They silently reflected the territory's construction achievements. The benefits of being promoted to a capital city were not reflected on the stats panel. Using the territory's population as an example, Shanghai City no longer spawned refugees, but the entire territory began to spawn refugees. According to Gaia's settings, after being promoted to a capital city, the county cities, towns, and natural villages below, it would be based on 1/5 of the number of refugees spawned at the same level. It would spawn a fixed number of refugees every day. Using the South Chuanan Province's Xuanzhou County's Tianjin City as an example, as a county city, it would spawn 500, 1 plus 50. 20 is equal to 150 people per day under the augmentation of the territory's characteristics. According to this calculation, a county city, including a prefecture city, would spawn 60 people per day, a town would spawn 15 people per day, and a natural village would spawn 3 people per day. Although the number of refugees spawned was not many, it was still a considerable number accumulated over time. With the vastness of Shanghai City's territory, the growth of the territory's population would be even more astonishing. There would be an increase of 50,000 refugees every day. What did it mean to add 50,000 refugees every day? Based on the current territory alone, there would be an increase of 18 million people every year. In 4 years, the territory's population would exceed the 100 million mark, catching up to the population of the Ming Dynasty at its peak. Without a doubt, this was the greatest reward of being promoted to a capital city. The other rewards, such as achievement points, hidden buildings, god-level summoning talismans, the 12 gold colossi, and the satellite cities were not comparable to this. The earlier they became a capital city, the stronger their foundation would be compared to the other territories. It was no wonder that the merit requirement for a duke was 5 times that of a first-rank marquis. It was because the capital city and the non-capital city were 2 completely different domains. One was in the sky, the other was on the ground. With this alone, Ouyang Shua had the confidence to wrestle with the silver hand. Even if Di Chun and the others recruited more players to settle in their territory, they would not be able to keep up with the spawning speed of Shanghai City's refugees. Not to mention, with a large number of refugees as a foundation, Ouyang Shuo could also increase the number of players he attracted. In the future, even in terms of plundering players, the Yan-Huang alliance wouldn't be able to compare to Shanghai City. This was equivalent to cutting off one of the pillars of the Yan-Huang alliance, causing it to be on the verge of collapse. No matter how many tricks Di Chun and the others played, they could not compare to Ouyang Shuo's righteous attack. This was the way of the king. Ouyang Shuo closed the status panel and stood up to leave the main hall. He wanted to go to the newly spawned, hidden building Tower of 10,000 Names and use the first summoning opportunity to summon an honest official. Seeing that the territory was about to be established, Ouyang Shuo would not mind even if there were more civil officials. The Tower of 10,000 Names was located in the northeast corner of the capital, next to the general stage. Behind it was the True Dragon Pool, which was also a building. The recruitment hall, the Silver Prayer Tower, the general stage, the Tower of 10,000 Names, and the True Dragon Pool. These 5 hidden buildings were lined up in a row, creating a spectacular sight. After seeing so many of them, Ouyang Shuo became calm. System notification: congratulations to player who has no clothes for unlocking the Tower of 10,000 Names. This is the first time the Tower of 10,000 Names has been unlocked. You will automatically receive a chance to recruit an honest official. Do you want to recruit? Yes. A white light flashed, and a burly and slightly plump old man appeared. Although he was called an old man, he was probably in his 50s. He had a warm smile on his face, and he gave off an amiable feeling at first sight. This humble subject, Di Huaying, pays respect to the Lord. Ouyang Shuo was slightly taken aback, and then a bright smile flashed across his face. He actually managed to recruit the Di Renjia of his dreams on the first recruitment. Ouyang Shuo was now truly convinced that after the 2 evolutions of his Dragon of Destiny, he was also a person with a deep source of fortune. This luck couldn't be too good. Ouyang Shuo came back to his senses and helped Di Renjia up, saying, "Grandpa Di, please rise." With that, Ouyang Shuo personally led Di Renjia out of the Tower of 10,000 Names and back to the Protectorate. Di Renjia was born in the Di clan of Taiyuan. In his early years, he ranked first in the Ming Classics. He successively held the positions of Bian Prefecture's judge, Bing Prefecture's governor's office, Minister of the Supreme Court, Imperial Censor, Minister of Duji, Governor of Ning Prefecture, Assistant Minister of Winter, Right Minister of Wenchang, Governor of Yu Prefecture, Governor of Fu Prefecture, and Minister of Luo Prefecture. He was known for not fearing the nobles. In the 9th month of the 2nd year of Heaven's Gift, Di Renjia was promoted to the position of Prime Minister, Assistant Minister of Prefectures, Assistant Minister of Prefectures, 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 and Minister of Prefectures. Di Renjia was reinstated during the Yingzhou Rebellion, and in the 1st year of Shenggong, he became the Prime Minister again, Assistant Minister of Luantai, and Minister of Prefectures. Later on, he urged Wu Zetian to restore the Prince of Luling, Li Xian, as the crown prince, allowing the Tang dynasty to continue. It was said that Di Renjia was a god in judging cases, and there wasn't a single case that was unjust. When Di Renjia first took up his post in the Supreme Court, there were a lot of cases in the Supreme Court. He devoted himself to his work, writing day and night, and after a whole year of hard work, he cleared the backlog of cases. There were more than 17,000 people involved in the cases, but not a single person cried out for help after the case was over. The large number of cases and the high quality of the cases were well known at that time. That was how he became known as the Godly Detective. On the way, Ouyang Shuo checked Di Renjia's attributes. Name: Di Renjia, God level. Title: one of the 10 famous ministers in History Dynasty, Tang Dynasty, Wuzhou. Identity: Shanghai City official. Occupation: civil official. Loyalty: 70 commander, 75 martial strength, 48 intelligence, 98 politics, 95 specialty. Godly Detective Minister. Increases the territory's incorruptibility by 40. Increases the territory's efficiency by 25. Increases the territory's ability to solve cases by 55. increases the territory's ability to govern. Officials by 20. Book. Family style. Evaluation. Rinja was born with the righteousness of the 5 elements, raised the 9 remonstrances, and was able to bring peace to the throne. He flowed to Hebei, and his name spread far and wide. He only served the emperor and had a clear conscience. He used his portrait to show his kindness. He discussed the Tao and the state, and held the position of a Zhou official. His chastity and resolute spirit made the shrine of Wei's land shine brightly. Another god-level civil official. He was indeed powerful. Not only was Rinja a godly detective, but he was also a famous minister. He was even one of the 10 famous ministers in history. Rinja was famous for his ability to solve cases like a god. He had not been a prime minister for long. If Ouyang Shuo invited Rinja to the cabinet, it would be a waste of his talent. Ouyang Shuo's idea was to arrange for Rinja to enter the Internal Affairs Department and work with Wei Yang, the legalist. He would be in charge of the disciplinary bureau and would be responsible for the trial of cases in the territory. The details would have to be discussed later. As for the other hidden building, the True Dragon Pool, Ouyang Shuo was prepared to give the first chance to Zhao Sihu, the deputy commander of the 1st Legion of the City Guards. He hoped that Zhao Sihu could use this opportunity to break through to the king level. Luo Shixin, the young general, was also on the verge of breaking through and could become an emperor-level general at any time. However, Luo Shixin was far away in Dongchuan County, so he could only wait for the next month. It was already noon when Ouyang Shuo settled Rinja down. After accompanying Rinja and Ko Zhuan for lunch, Ouyang Shuo returned to his study alone. Shanghai City had already been promoted to a capital city. Ouyang Shuo did not want to immediately apply for the establishment of a nation. Establishing a nation would definitely have a mission. There were still many matters in the territory that had not been settled yet. Ouyang Shuo did not want to make a hasty application at this time, lest he became flustered when the time came. Not to mention the distant matters. Ouyang Shuo had not had the time to deal with the newly conquered Minnan province, the land of remembrance. Before establishing a nation, he had to stabilize the province in order to be at ease. There was also the newly created satellite city that needed to be settled properly. Just as Ouyang Shuo was about to summon Jiang Shang, Xiao He, and the others to discuss the candidates for the 4 prefectural governors, a report suddenly came in from outside, saying that someone was requesting an audience. Who is it? Ouyang Shuo asked. The person who came in to report was the captain of the imperial bodyguards, Su Chu. This burly man's face unexpectedly showed a rare expression of excitement. He said, "Reporting to my lord, Mr. Wenruo has come to visit." The tone of their conversation was quite intimate. It seemed that the visitor was someone who was close to Su Chu. Wenruo. Ouyang Shuo did not react for a moment. This should be a person's name. Su Chu smiled honestly, patted his head, and said, "It's Mr. Sun Yu. It's him." Ouyang Shuo was shocked. He said, "Quickly invite Mr. Sun Yu to the study for a chat." After a pause, he stood up and left his seat. He said, "No, it's better for me to personally welcome him outside the door." Sun Yu's visit at this time must be because he was preparing to become an official in Shanghai City. Ouyang Shuo did not expect that Shanghai City would attract such a great talent as soon as it was promoted to a capital city. It was really a good start. As the news of Shanghai City's promotion to a capital city spread, more talents would come because of its reputation. When Shanghai City was established, there would be even more people willing to become officials in Shanghai City. Even so, Ouyang Shuo wouldn't neglect anyone, let alone Sun Yu, who was such a talented person. Chapter 836. In the reception room of the Protectorate of the Southern Border sat a middle-aged scholar in a red robe, with a Han sword hanging at his waist. This person's forehead was full, and the ground was round. Even in his middle age, he was still a handsome man with outstanding temperament. He was Sun Yu, Cao Cao's first strategist. It had been more than half a year since the end of the Battle of Chibi, and the generals of the 3 kingdoms had appeared in the wilderness. Sun Yu had come to the wilderness to seek a position in the imperial court in Luoyang. After all, Emperor Wu of Han represented the legitimate Han family. Unfortunately, the officials and generals who followed Emperor Wu had formed their own system. Sun Yu was not put in an important position in Luoyang, so he was depressed. When Shanghai City was promoted to the capital, Sun Yu thought of Su Chu, Jia Su, Xiahou Yuan, Cao Chun, and other generals and strategists in Cao Cao's camp. He gritted his teeth and left Luoyang to become an official in Shanghai City. That was why the previous scene happened. When Ouyang Shuo met Sun Yu, it was a scene of harmony between the ruler and his subject. Ouyang Shuo was familiar with Sun Yu, a genius of the Three Kingdoms. In his early years, Sun Yu was known as the talent of the king's assistant. He was filial and incorruptible and was appointed as the palace guard. Later, he returned to his hometown and led his clan to Jizhou. He was treated as an honored guest by Yuan Shao. Later, Sun Yu joined Cao Cao and was promoted to the position of Minister of Defense. He was given the title of Marquis of 10,000 Years Pavilion. Because he was the Minister of Defense and handled military affairs for more than 10 years, he was respectfully called Lord Sun. Later, he was hated by Cao Cao for opposing the title of Duke of Wei and was transferred away from the central government. He died of depression in Sichuan at the age of 50. In terms of strategy, Sun Yu worked out a blueprint and military route for Cao Cao to unify the north, including deeply rooted to control the world and welcoming the emperor. In terms of tactics, Sun Yu protected the 3 cities of Yanzhou in the face of Lu Bu's rebellion. He plotted against Yuan Shao at Guandu and attacked Jingzhou by surprise. In terms of politics, Sun Yu recommended Zhong Yao, Sun Yu, Chun Kun, Dushi Shizhizai, and Guojia to Cao Cao. They were the core members of Ru Ying's group and controlled the political and economic construction of Cao Cao's camp for a long time. Sun Yu made many achievements in planning, plotting, supporting Quang Bai, and Jiren. Cao Cao called him. Unfortunately, Sun Yu was obsessed with the Han dynasty and eventually parted ways with the ambitious Cao Cao. He died of depression. Name: Sun Yu, God level, dynasty. Late Eastern Han dynasty, identity. Shanghai City Councilor, profession. Superior tactician, loyalty. 70 points commander. 75 strength. 40 intelligence. 97 politics. 85 specialty. King's talent. Increases strategy success rate by 55%. Increases talent attraction rate by 25%. Increases efficiency by 25%. Increases governance level by 20%. Evaluation. Sun Yu of Yingchuan, a tool of Wang Zhua, has accumulated virtue and has no regrets at a young age. He has been troubled by the world and is loyal to rule the country. A corporal will not be tired from sitting. In the Tai Pavilion, he wouldn't be bothered by his personal desires. Although Sun Yu was a strategist, he wasn't just a strategist. In fact, he was quite a capable civil official. Ouyang Shuo already had Jia Su and Chun Gong by his side. It was better to use Sun Yu as a civil official. Sun Yu's arrival made Ouyang Shuo's arrangement of personnel in the 4 counties of Minnan province much smoother. On the 22nd of March, the Protectorate of Nanjiang issued a series of appointments and removals. Di Renjia was appointed as the Deputy Director of the Internal Affairs Bureau and was in charge of the Disciplinary Department and the Supervisory Office. At the same time, Jing Jian was removed from his position as the director of the Supervisory Office and was sent to the Minnan Province to be the county governor of Shaowu County. Jing Jian's sudden departure was somewhat out of the expectations of Xiao He and the others. They could not fathom his intentions. In history, Jing Jian had been a military general before he became a civil official and became Wei Yang's right-hand man. During his time as the director of the Supervisory Office, Jing Jian's performance wasn't very outstanding. He seemed to only listen to Wei Yang's orders and lost sight of Ouyang Shuo's original intention of setting up the Supervisory Office. This made Ouyang Shuo somewhat unhappy. Di Renjia's arrival just happened to balance out Wei Yang's presence in the Internal Affairs Bureau. It was reasonable for Ouyang Shuo to take the opportunity to transfer Jing Jian out of the Internal Affairs Bureau. Of course, Ouyang Shuo didn't mistreat Jing Jian. Jing Jian was transferred to be the county governor of Shaowu County and was even promoted by half a rank. Shaowu County was adjacent to the Jiangnan province and belonged to the border area. Having Jing Jian, a military official, as the county governor was also conducive to stabilizing the border. It could be said to be killing two birds with one stone. He appointed Sun Yu as the county governor of Fuyong County, Bailey Nanfeng as the county governor of Tingzhou, and Fang Xiaoru as the county governor of Longyan County. Fuyong County was the most central county in the Minnan province and was also the front line against Overlord City. With Sun Yu a top-notch strategist in charge, Ouyang Shuo could be at ease. When necessary, Sun Yu could give advice to the troops guarding Fuyong County. Thus, there were two special county governors, a strategist and a military general, at the border of the Minnan province. It could be seen that Ouyang Shuo was not at ease with Overlord City. In the future, Shanghai City was going to expand, and Ouyang Shuo didn't want Xiongba and the others to cause any trouble. If it wasn't for the fact that he was worried that the Yanhuang Alliance and the Silver Hand would fight back, Ouyang Shuo had the heart to take over the Jiangnan province. The county governor of Tingzhou, Bailey Nanfeng, was a player. He was the most important chess piece that the Shanghai guards had planted around them. Ouyang Shuo abided by his previous promise and let him govern county. Bailey Nanfeng was a utilitarian, or rather, an egoist. He wasn't a die-hard loyalist, and he also had the stain of betraying his previous master, the dragon-seeking acupoint. Fortunately, Tingzhou County was located in the Minnan province, far away from the dragon-seeking city and the ocean. Ouyang Shuo wasn't worried that Bailey Nanfeng would cause any trouble. Not to mention, the Shanghai guards were keeping an eye on him. Ouyang Shuo believed that Bailey Nanfeng was a tactful person. People who benefited from their own interests were usually clear-headed. As long as Shanghai City didn't have any problems, Bailey Nanfeng wouldn't have any ideas. Apart from Bailey Nanfeng, the first 10 lords of the Minnan province who had cooperated with Shanghai City also received generous rewards. All of them were appointed as prefects. Of course, their positions weren't in the Minnan province. As for the 6 lords who surrendered later, some of them were appointed as prefects, while others could only become county magistrates. Whether they could be promoted or not depended on their abilities. For these lords, if they could be promoted to prefects one day, it would be worth it. This time, a large number of lords were appointed as prefects instead of forcing them to become merchants. One reason was that Ouyang Shuo had become more confident, and the other was that Shanghai City system was becoming more complete. The current Shanghai City could accommodate oddities and withstand the impact. The prefect of Longyan County, Fang Xiaoru, was the only famous civil official among the 16 territories in the Minnan province. Ouyang Shuo naturally made the best use of his talent and arranged for Fang Xiaoru to continue serving in Longyan County. Name: Fang Xiaoru, King level, title: Mr. Academic Dynasty, Ming Dynasty Identity, Prefect of Longyan County Occupation, Civil Official Loyalty, 70 Commander, 45 Martial Power, 30 Intelligence, 75 Politics, 80 Specialties. Academic, increases the territory's education level by 30, the territory's integrity level by 20, the territory's culture level by 25. Works: Sun Jizhai Collection. Remarks: Xiaoru has been astute since he was young. His eyes are bright, and he has read a lot every day. Because of his great literary talent, the villagers call him Little Han Zi. Fang Xiaoru's courtesy name was Shiji. He was a senior advisor to Zhu Di, the emperor of the Ming dynasty. Yao Guangxiao called him a scholar's seed. Later, because he refused to draft an imperial edict for Zhu Di, the prince of Yin, he was killed by Zhu Di. Fang Xiaoru was a martyr in history. Mr. Husher once commented, after Fang Xiaoru was killed, there were no more political thinkers in the Ming dynasty for 200 years. With the appointment of the 4 prefects, the Minnan province immediately ended its military control and began to slowly get on the right track. March 23rd, Longshuan City. After delineating the 4 prefects, Ouyang Shuo came to Longshuan City, accompanied by Du Ruhui. The first was to send Sun Yu, Jing Jian, and Bai Nanfeng to their posts. The second was to discuss a new round of army reorganization. Because the battle went smoothly, neither side suffered any losses when the Imperial Guards attacked the Longshuan army. Even in the Battle of Longshuan City, the Imperial Guards and the City Guards didn't put up much resistance because the difference in strength was too great. Similarly, the other three counties didn't have any exciting battles. This created a blissful problem. Post-war statistics showed that nearly 300,000 soldiers needed to be reorganized. It far exceeded Ouyang Shua's expectations. Ouyang Shua originally believed that it would be pretty good if the four counties could reorganize three armies. In reality, it was more than enough to reorganize four armies. Among the three armies, the Dragon Stallion Army and the Leopard Army currently had 4 field armies, while the Brave Tiger Army had 3. They were just short of 4 armies from the full 5 armies. Ouyang Shua gritted his teeth and endured the objections of the finance department. He planned on expanding the 3 armies to their full strength in one go. It wasn't that Ouyang Shua wanted to be militaristic. Firstly, the soldiers that were to be reorganized were regular soldiers from his territory. Ouyang Shua couldn't possibly let these precious soldiers retire, right? Secondly, with the territory being promoted to a capital city, the population growth would enter the fast lane. It wouldn't take long for the ratio of soldiers to civilians to reach a safe value. Thirdly, Gaia happened to reward him with 3 million gold coins. With this amount of money, the military expansion wouldn't have any substantial impact on the territory's finances. Furthermore, the conquest of Minnan province didn't cause any damage to the territory. Only by stabilizing the hearts of the people could he quickly get back on the right track. There was no need for the protectorate to provide additional financial aid. Only then did family agree to this round of army reorganization and approved the military budget. Before coming to Longshuan City, Ouyang Shua had already decided on 4 army commanders. The commander of the Dragon Stallion Army's 5th Army was Shi Dakai, the best general of the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom. The commander of the Leopard Army's 5th Army was the famous general of the Sui dynasty, Zhang Shuta. Zhang Shuta didn't make it in time for the previous army reorganization, so Ouyang Shua naturally wouldn't forget this fierce general. The commander of the Brave Tiger Army's 4th Army was Qin Xiong, while the commander of the 5th Army was the young general of the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom, Li Xiuqing. Chapter 837. P.S. Sheng Xiao has gone berserk. Please give me some tips. I still have 2 chapters to write. I'll post them when I'm done. Each of the 3 armies had a Taiping general as the core commander. Feng Yinshan, Xiao Chaogui, Hu Yihuang, Qin Rigong, and other core commanders were also added. The generals of the Taiping faction officially rose and became a force that could not be ignored in the army. The only ones comparable to the generals of the Taiping faction were the generals of the 3 kingdoms. However, the generals of the 3 kingdoms did not come from the same faction, so it was still unknown whether they could be grouped together. The combination of Zhang Shuta, Luo Shixin, and Qin Xiong was also eye-catching. Of course, with Bai Qi, Han Exin, Hua Xubing, and Sun Bin, the 4 divine generals, and the strict rules, Ouyang Shua was not worried that these generals would cause trouble. At the same time, when assigning positions, Ouyang Shua intentionally or unintentionally separated the generals of the same faction. As the 3 armies reached their full strength, Shanghai City's field army alone reached 20 corps, totaling 1 million soldiers, guarding the long border of Shanghai City. The 4 provinces were connected from end to end, forming a long and narrow ribbon. Therefore, it lacked sufficient strategic depth. If it were not for the fact that nearly half of the province was the coastline and the national border, Shanghai City would face even more pressure on the border. Because of this, Ouyang Shua made up his mind to expand the 3 armies to their full strength. On the morning of the 23rd, Ouyang Shua, together with Du Ruhui and other generals, held a temporary military meeting in Longshuan City. He announced the reorganization plan and the appointment of the relevant generals. The specific reorganization work was still the responsibility of the General Administration of Military Affairs. Ouyang Shua's only request was that the territorial armies be disorganized and reorganized, but there should be no prejudice in the appointment of the territorial generals. Ouyang Shua had also sent letters to the 16 feudal lords of Minnan Province, asking them to recommend their respective generals and make an objective evaluation of them for the General Directorate of Military Affairs reference. After the military meeting, Ouyang Shua met with Qin Xiong alone. Name: Qin Xiong, King Level, Dynasty, Sui Tang Identity, Commander of the 4th Army of the Brave Tiger Army, Occupation, High-Level General Loyalty, 75 points Commander, 70 Force, 85 Intelligence, 55 Politics, 40 Specialty. Brave, increase troops attack power by 20, increase marching speed by 20, skill, family halberd technique. Equipment, Tiger Head Golden Halberd evaluation. Qin Xiong is brave and valiant. He is good at using a lance. He can be said to be brave. To know one's integrity and resolve one's country's crisis, to worship a falcon to assist the ruler, one can be said to be loyal. After the truth was revealed, Qin Xiong shifted his hatred to Overlord City. If it wasn't for Overlord City's interference, his master wouldn't have betrayed him. At least, that was what Qin Xiong thought. For this reason, Qin Xiong strongly requested to guard the border of Fuyong County. Ouyang Shua agreed to Qin Xiong's request and even discussed it with the commander of the stalwart Tiger Army, Sun Bin. Not long after, the headquarters of the Brave Tiger Army will be transferred from Shaozhou County of Lingnan Province to Fuyong County of Minnan Province. Sun Bin would command the 1st Corps of the Brave Tiger Army. Together with Family Hua's 3rd Corps and Qin Xiong's 4th Corps, he would personally guard the eastern border of the territory. The battle between Sun Bin and Wu Qi, this pair of warring states' heavenly generals, is something to look forward to. As for the defense of Shaozhou County, it would be jointly guarded by Di Qing's 2nd Legion and Li Xiuqing's 5th Legion. At the same time, Di Qing was appointed as the deputy commander of the Brave Tiger Army and would be in charge of the defense of Lingnan Province. In this way, the military deployment of Lingnan Province was not weakened, and the defense of Jiangnan Province was strengthened. The Brave Tiger Army also became the first field army whose jurisdiction spanned across 2 provinces. The newly formed 5th Legion of the Leopard Army would be stationed in Tianjin City. During normal times, it would be responsible for deterring the satellite cities. During times of war, it could go north to support the front line at any time. On the 24th of the 3rd month, after arranging the military affairs, Ouyang Shua began a week-long inspection. Since the establishment of the country was imminent and the matter of the satellite cities was still pending, Ouyang Shua was already at his limit for a week. Fortunately, the 4 counties of the South Min province were rather peaceful. Ouyang Shua, the Lord, only needed to show his face and declare his sovereignty, and that would be enough. If he had time in the future, Ouyang Shua would go to the Minnan province to inspect again. Using the opportunity of the inspection, Ouyang Shua had a general understanding of the 4 counties so that he wouldn't become a laughingstock. First, Longyan County. With the addition of the 4 counties of Minnan Province to Shanghai City's jurisdiction, the relationship between Shanghai City and Xuanzhou Royal City suddenly became subtle. It was unknown whether the 2 could still maintain frequent trade. Because of this, when Fang Xiaoru, the governor of Longyan County, took office, Ouyang Shua made a clear request for Longyan County to speed up the construction of Xiamen Harbor and strive to make Xiamen Harbor comparable to Jiaozhou Harbor within a year. In reality, Xiamen Harbor was a larger harbor than Xuanzhou Harbor and had a superior geographical location. There was no reason to say that Shanghai City couldn't carry out maritime trade without Xuanzhou Harbor. On the contrary, without the export of goods from the territories of Minnan Province, Xuanzhou's competitiveness would be greatly reduced. Moreover, the Izhou Strait was not yet under Shanghai City's control, so it might not be able to compete with Xiamen Harbor in the future. Ouyang Shua called this a drastic measure. The only regret was that Minnan Province's famous Anchi village was located in Xuanzhou County, which made Ouyang Shua salivate. Anchi was the hometown of Tiguanyin and Oolong tea, famous both at home and abroad. Apart from Xiamen Harbor, Longyan County also had some coal resources that could solve the urgent need. There was no need to talk about Tingzhou County and Shaowu County. They did not have any special characteristics or shortcomings. They were counties that conformed to the rules. If they were managed well, they would be able to generate decent profits. Moreover, these two counties were bordered by Jiangchuan Province, so they could guide the goods from Jiangchuan Province to be sold overseas through Xiamen Harbor. Just the tariff alone would be very impressive. Among the four counties, Fuyong County was the most developed. Dragon-seeking acupuncture borrowed a lot from Shanghai City's development experience, and with the loan support from the Bank of the Four Seas, its overall economic strength was obviously stronger than the other three counties. After taking down Fuyong County, the relevant loans were transferred to the Fuyong County Yamen and continued to be fulfilled. Moreover, Fuyong County system was copied from Shanghai City system, so there were no problems with integration. While Ouyang Shua was inspecting Minnan Province, the negotiations between the three guilds, Breeze Pavilion, Shadow Alliance, and Dream House, were also coming to an end. During this period, Bright Moon Illuminates the River also specially informed Ouyang Shua about the relevant terms of the negotiations. After Ouyang Shua nodded in approval, the plan was officially implemented. On the 25th of March, a piece of news blew up the entire guild circle. Breeze Pavilion, Shadow Alliance, and Dream Pavilion announced that the three guilds would merge into one and form a new super guild, Blood Shadow Alliance. After the reorganization, Breeze Pavilion, Shadow Alliance, and Dream House's shares in the Bank of the Four Seas would also be transferred to Blood Shadow Alliance. 11% of the shares made Blood Shadow Alliance the second largest shareholder of the Bank of the Four Seas. After taking down Dragon-seeking City, Ouyang Shua didn't kill them all. The 1% of shares that Dragon-seeking Acupuncture held in the Bank of the Four Seas was still owned by Dragon-seeking Acupuncture, and it was enough to ensure a lifetime of wealth. Blood Shadow Alliance's leader was Bright Moon Illuminates the River, while Shadow Fox and Dream Cloud Swallowtop were the deputy leaders. From today onwards, the three famous guilds, Breeze Pavilion, Shadow Alliance, and Dream Pavilion, had become history. On this basis, a super guild was born. After the reorganization, Blood Shadow Alliance even surpassed the #1 guild, Baleful Blood Mercenary Group, and became the guild with the most members in the China server. Blood Shadow Alliance had more than 1 million members, and it was truly a giant. After the failure in the battle for the satellite cities, the three guilds had lost some members. Fortunately, Ouyang Shua's promise allowed the core and backbone members of the three guilds to stay. Losing a certain amount of weight actually reduced the amount of unnecessary resistance during the reorganization, making it much smoother. Of course, the three guilds that had nothing to do with each other could successfully reorganize because of Shanghai City's satellite cities. Without this, everything would be meaningless. With Ouyang Shua's authorization, Blood Shadow Alliance became the guardian guild of Shanghai City's satellite cities as soon as it was established, and the guild headquarters were moved to the satellite cities. As for Dali in the capital, only one branch was left. Once the news came out, countless guilds were envious. After Shanghai City's satellite cities appeared, many guilds in the 9 great royal cities tried to establish a relationship with Shanghai City in an attempt to obtain the right to guard the satellite cities. Who would have thought that the right had already been decided? Of course, Blood Shadow Alliance also paid a price. After all, Ouyang Shua was not a saint. Blood Shadow Alliance would go through a shareholding reform, and according to tradition, they would invite Ouyang Shua to be an independent director. Ouyang Shua would invest in Blood Shadow Alliance as the guardian guild of the satellite cities, and he held 5% of Blood Shadow Alliance's shares. Even though it was only 5%, it was valued at more than 1 million gold coins. Because it was a collective shareholding, even Bright Moon Illuminating River only held 4% of the shares. Therefore, Ouyang Shuo was still the largest shareholder of Blood Shadow Alliance. However, the shares he held were different from the shares and voting rights held by the higher-ups of Bright Moon Illuminating River and the other guilds. As long as there was no internal conflict between the higher-ups of the guild, they would still be able to control the shares. Shanghai City's satellite cities were huge, and it could accommodate more than one Blood Shadow Alliance. Threads and Falling Moon Society would also set up branches in the satellite cities, but of course, their headquarters would not be moved. In the eyes of Love Thread and Sun Xiaoye, Cliff Mountain City and Shanghai City were not inferior to the satellite cities. Both guilds were guilds of pure life profession players, and they only needed to set up a branch in the satellite cities to purchase raw materials and a branch in charge of selling finished products. Exploration of the underworld would be left to the combat profession players. At the same time, a small half of the small and medium-sized guilds that Shanghai City had introduced would move to the satellite cities. Even if they did not move their headquarters there, they would set up branches in the satellite cities like Threads and Falling Moon Society. Even so, the satellite cities were still a little empty, and they were far from being full. Ouyang Shuo had no intention of bringing in too many guilds at once. It was fine if there were fewer people. Chapter 838. P.S. Sheng Xiao is throwing caution to the wind. Every 20,000 reward will be rewarded with one chapter. Sir, aren't you going to do it? While Ouyang Shuo was patrolling the Minnan province, the Blood Shadow Alliance had already begun reorganizing and relocating. It was estimated that everything would be done within half a month. The first batch of players from the Blood Shadow Alliance had already arrived at the satellite city. They were all elite team members. They would be the vanguard to explore the underground world and map it out. Ouyang Shuo was also interested in this. According to Gaia's settings, the Overlord could bring an army to explore the entrance to the underground world within the territory. Ouyang Shuo was also curious as to what kind of surprises the mysterious underground world held. April 1st, Shanghai City. Ouyang Shuo hurriedly ended his patrol in the Minnan province and returned to Shanghai City with the Imperial Guards. The Imperial Guards had made a great contribution this time. They had traveled thousands of miles and settled the matter in a single battle. They had completely washed away the humiliation of Eternal Humanity City. Huitzubing's long-distance assault tactics would probably give many people a headache. After being promoted to a capital city, Ouyang Shuo felt that Shanghai City had become even more prosperous. There was an endless stream of merchants and players on the city streets. It really had the atmosphere of a capital city. The first thing Ouyang Shuo did after returning to Shanghai City was to apply for the establishment of a nation. The palace had basically been renovated, and all that was left was to establish the nation. In the main hall, Ouyang Shuo opened the territory's control panel and clicked on the application for the establishment of a nation. A system notification sounded in his ears, beginning the basic conditions. System notification. Testing Shanghai City's application for the establishment of a nation. Condition 1. Main city to be promoted to a capital city. Requirements met. Condition 2. Lord's title is at least a duke. Requirements met. When he was promoted to a capital city, Ouyang Shuo had obtained 400,000 merit points in one go. His current total merit points had reached a terrifying 46 million. He was only 540,000 merit points away from the next rank of Duke. Condition 3. Lord's reputation is at least outstanding reputation. Requirements met. Not to mention outstanding reputation, Ouyang Shuo had already achieved the next rank, renowned across the seas. Ouyang Shuo now had 48 million reputation points, but it was far beyond that. He did not know if Gaia would introduce a higher reputation next time. Condition 4. Have at least 4 counties. Requirements met. Compared to the capital, the requirement for establishing a country was an additional county. If not for the existence of a royal city in certain provinces, Gaia would probably have set the condition to a single province. For some small and medium-sized countries, the prerequisite for establishing a country was to complete domestic unification. Otherwise, they would not even be able to meet the territory condition. Condition 5. The population of the territory must exceed 10 million and meet the requirements. Gaia's considerations were thorough. If a particular territory was militaristic, only thinking about external warfare and plundering tactics, only knowing destruction and not construction, it would cause the newly occupied territory to become a scarlet wall with a withered population. This kind of territory was not qualified to apply for the establishment of a country. Capital city, noble title, reputation, territory, and population were the 5 basic requirements for establishing a country. If they didn't reach this standard, they wouldn't even have the qualifications to apply. It was better to give up on the idea of establishing a country. Condition 6. The territory's luck is at least rank 2, red luck. The requirements are met. The Dragon of Providence was already a rank 3 purple dragon, and it had even met the requirements to establish a dynasty. Condition 7. Territories, popular support, must reach at least 95 points, meet the requirement. Establishing a country was an important matter for the people. If the popular support did not meet the requirements, no matter how strong the territory was, it would be useless. Condition 8. Possess a guardian divine beast, meet the requirements. Murphy had coincidentally evolved into a divine beast of the kingdom, and it really came at the right time. Otherwise, Ouyang Shua could only think of a way to let Little Green evolve again and break through the last shackle. As for the auspicious beast Chi, it was a special spiritual beast and could not become a guardian divine beast. It was funny, Shanghai City had a dragon as its totem. Regardless of whether it was the Lord Flag or the manifestation of luck, they were all divine dragons. Who would have thought that the first guardian divine beast would actually be a Qilin? However, the whereabouts of the dragon race were elusive, and Ouyang Shua was not sure if he would have the opportunity to meet a divine dragon in the future. If he could invite a divine dragon to be the guardian divine beast, that would be impressive. Condition 9. Possess at least 1 treasure to establish a country. Meet the requirements. Back when he was out at sea, the seal that Ouyang Shua was wearing was completely unsealed on Dragon Island and turned into the Emperor's seal. The unsealed Emperor's seal was not only authentic, it was also a top-grade treasure to establish a country. The 9 basic requirements implied that 9 out of 9 would return to 1, and it was the will of the heavens. It could be seen that each of the 9 basic requirements was more difficult than the last. Even if a territory was promoted to a capital city, without Ouyang Shua's fortuitous encounter and Shanghai City's heritage, it would be impossible to establish a country in a short period of time. System notification. Congratulations to player who says that has no clothes. All the requirements for establishing a territory have been met. Do you wish to immediately establish a country? Yes. System notification. Congratulations to player who says that has no clothes for establishing a country. Beginning automatically matching mission. System notification. Mission matching complete. Mission 1. Submission of the 4 barbarians. The territory must have at least 4 alien tribes recognized by the system. Gaia really knew how to make things difficult for people. Submission of the 4 barbarians was indeed a sign of establishing a country, but it was easier said than done. Even in Shanghai City, the only alien tribes recognized by the system were the mountain barbarians in the territory, the Li tribe that lived in Jingzhou Island, and the recently subdued Gaoshan tribe of Yizhou Island. For missing one, there was still one missing. The nomadic tribes of Lianzhou Basin were probably too small in scale, and they did not live there for a long time, so they could not be considered as the source of the nomadic tribes. Therefore, they were not recognized by Gaia. There was no problem of subduing the ethnic minorities of the various provinces, so they were naturally not recognized by Gaia. This was difficult for Ouyang Shua. Where was he to find another alien tribe that was recognized by Gaia in such a short period of time? Furthermore, he had to subdue it. Ouyang Shua thought of the Chong tribe in Sichuan, but the mountains were far away, so it was rather difficult to implement. I'll see. Ouyang Shua shook his head silently. He knew that the mission of establishing a country would not be easier than the capital city advancement mission. Mission 2, Wanxiang Update. Recently, the territory will have to achieve an academic breakthrough, develop a new type of weapon and equipment, and obtain a new type of technology to celebrate the birth of a new dynasty. Ouyang Shua's face immediately darkened. What mission 2? There were clearly 3 missions, all right? Why did he feel that Gaia was becoming more and more immoral? What was an academic breakthrough? Ouyang Shua was temporarily at a loss. If it was a new type of weapon and equipment, the industry department's shipping department had been developing the Z-1 warship. According to Ouyang Shua's knowledge, it was about to be completed, so he should be able to make it in time. From the looks of it, he still had to urge the shipping department. Finally, it was a new type of technology. This was the most difficult. With Gaia's character, the existing technology in the wilderness was definitely insignificant. He had to either develop a new type of technology or find some other advanced technology. Ouyang Shua was really tired. How could there be such a torment? Mission 3, congratulations from all corners. At least 50 lords will come to congratulate the founding of the country. Friendly reminder, lords are not limited to players. They can also be NPC factions, and they are not limited to the country. There were less than 100 lords in the wilderness in the China region. According to Gaia's requirements, more than half of the lords in the wilderness would come to congratulate Shanghai City for establishing a country. If it was before the appearance of Silverhand, Ouyang Shua was confident that he would have the face to do so. However, with the Silverhand stirring things up, the waters in the wilderness were completely muddled. Ouyang Shua was really unsure how many lords would come to Shanghai City to congratulate him. The Yinhuang Alliance camp was definitely unreliable. It would be good enough if they did not send a bomb. Ouyang Shua made a rough estimate. Other than his 3 allies, Feng Xiaohuang, Siege Lion, and Taowu, he could invite at least 15 out of the 20 lords in Jiangchuan province. Then there were the 2 major city-states, Chuanbei City and Xiangnan City. Ouyang Shua estimated that there would only be 18 of them. The rest were variables. Among the NPC factions, Westchu would probably come. Xianying City and Luoyang City of the 9 Great King cities would also arrange envoys to congratulate him. Xuanzhou City was already settled, but it was definitely not counted on now. In the country, there were probably only that many. There were only 39 of them, which was still a distance away from 50 lords. Ouyang Shua regretted taking over the Minnan province. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been difficult for him to gather 50 lords. However, with Gaia's nature, Ouyang Shua had reason to suspect that the number of 50 was precisely calculated by Gaia. If Minnan province was still around, the mission requirement would have been 60 to 70 lords. Gaia would not let Ouyang Shua take advantage of any loopholes. Therefore, Ouyang Shua could only count on foreign countries. If not for Silverhand, even if it was abroad, Ouyang Shua was confident that he could gather 50 foreign lords to congratulate him with the huge influence of the Grand Line. Thinking of this, Ouyang Shua was full of resentment towards Silverhand. Just you wait. Sooner or later, I will cut off your hand. Ouyang Shua thought silently. William and Henry definitely could not be counted on from abroad. However, Queen Kalia of Atlantis should come to Shanghai City to congratulate him. As for the other lords of the Mediterranean Sea, it was hard to say. Ouyang Shua was not sure how many of them were members of Silverhand or were controlled by Silverhand. He estimated that there were only 2 or 3 of them. Then there were the ASEAN countries, especially the few countries that had trade agreements with Shanghai City. There should be 3 or 4 lords coming to congratulate him. In this way, there were still 4 or 5 lords missing. Ouyang Shua was not too worried. There was a way. There was still time, and the Chamberlain of Dependencies could still work. As long as they were diligent, they could always poach some of the Silverhand as members. It was just that it was inevitable to pay a little price. System prompt. The 3 founding missions must be completed in order to successfully establish a dynasty. Ouyang Shua was silent. This was really not surprising. Strictly speaking, The 3 missions designed by Gaia were very profound and were completely worthy of the style of establishing a nation. Chapter 839. On the afternoon of the first day of the 4th month, in the study of the Protectorate headquarters, Ouyang Shaw summoned the Minister of Industry, Chen Bingguang, and asked, "Old Chen, how long will it take for the Z-1 model battleship developed by the shipping department to be launched?" Although Old Chen was a little surprised, he still replied in detail, "The construction of the main body of the U Emperor has been completed. In another week, it will be launched at the shipyard. After that, it will be tested at sea. It will probably take another month." The Remnant Emperor was the first Z-1 type battleship built from the bones of a black dragon. It was also Ouyang Shua's new flagship. In the second half of the 4th year of Gaia, Ouyang Shua planned to board the Emperor Yu for another voyage. A month. Ouyang Shua frowned and asked, "Can you speed up the progress a little? Is Juanshang in a hurry to use it?" Old Chen was puzzled. Ouyang Shua shook his head and gave a general introduction of the founding mission. Elder Chen was enlightened and obviously looked excited as he said, "That's a good thing. Don't worry, Juanshang. This official will definitely urge the shipping department to speed up the progress and strive to complete all of the U Emperor's tests within half a month." Ouyang Shua smiled and nodded. "Then I'll have to trouble you, Elder Chen." "Not at all, not at all." Old Chen's footsteps were a little light when he left. To these scientists, being able to witness the silent rise of a huge empire in the game and personally participate in it was a very interesting thing. Ouyang Shua's expression was not relaxed after seeing Old Chen off. In the afternoon, the 3 missions to establish the nation had already been initiated, and Ouyang Shua had already made the necessary arrangements. Among the 3 tasks to establish the country, the first task, submission of the 4 barbarians, was the one with the most uncertainty. The time and location were uncertain, and even the target was not 100% certain. Ouyang Shua had already entrusted Chao Qin, the governor of Dongchuan County, with the cooperation of the Chamberlain of Dependencies, to secretly travel to the Shu region and make contact with the Chang tribe in Chang County. He wanted to see if he could guide a few large Chang tribes to settle down in Shanghai City. Based on Gaia's personality, if Shanghai City brought in too few Chang tribesmen, they would not be approved. The second mission, Myriad Phenomenon Update, was the most nerve-wracking. Currently, the research and development of the Z-1 battleship was the most important. Fortunately, there were signs of an academic breakthrough. Ouyang Shua, on the other hand, thought of the 10 calculations of heavenly secrets that Song Jia had given him. He had already given the 10 calculations of heavenly secrets to Southwest University China Research Hall and tasked all the masters of divination to work together to decipher the 10th calculation of heavenly secrets. The Southwest University China Research Hall was overseen by the Federation's top scientists. They would definitely be able to find another way to solve the problem within the scope of ancient mathematics. If he succeeded, it would be an academic breakthrough. This could also be considered a freak accident. As for the last new technology, it was still a mystery. Ouyang Shua looked for Liu Mo to see if the 7th Research Institute could combine Western alchemy to create a new technology. All of this takes time. The third mission, congratulations from all corners, should be the shortest and the least urgent. Ouyang Shua had already ordered the Chamberlain of Dependencies to begin preparing the invitations. Once the first and second missions were completed and the date of the founding of the nation was set, the invitations would be sent out one by one. The Department of Culture was already preparing for the coronation ceremony on the day of the founding of the country. It was busy but not chaotic. Before that, the Chamberlain of Dependencies would need to move around. The news of Shanghai City's founding had already spread throughout the wilderness. There were probably people waiting to see Shanghai City as a joke. Ouyang Shua naturally could not be defeated at this time. He had to maintain his momentum of sweeping across the land. The coronation ceremony was the moment when Shanghai City would display its influence. In the next few days, there was no progress on the founding mission, which made Ouyang Shua rather frustrated. On the 5th of April, the leader of the Blood Shadow Alliance, Bright Moon Illuminates the River, came to find Ouyang Shaw. A few days ago, the headquarters of the Blood Shadow Alliance had successfully moved to the satellite city. It could be considered to have officially settled down. Shanghai City and the Blood Shadow Alliance had also signed an official authorization agreement. Just like the Royal City and the Satellite City, Shanghai City's properties and shops were all handed over to the Blood Shadow Alliance to manage. The difference was that Shanghai City would take 60% of the profits, which was 10% more than the Royal City. Based on the current number of players in the Satellite City, the General Administration of Finance roughly calculated that 60% of the profits plus business taxes would bring in close to 300,000 gold coins for Shanghai City every month. It was not that Ouyang Shaw was evil. If he wanted to, he could have arranged for the territory officials to handle this matter. The profits would be even greater. However, Ouyang Shaw adhered to the principle of a win-win situation, so he did not interfere with the affairs of the satellite city. Sometimes one's hands could not be stretched too far. Besides, when it came to managing adventurer players, Shanghai City was not good at it. The Blood Shadow Alliance was the expert. The main reason Bright Moon Illuminates River sought out Ouyang Shaw was to request an army from Shanghai City to be stationed in the satellite city to assist the Blood Shadow Alliance in managing the city. Gaia would spawn 10,000 NPC troops to guard every royal city and satellite city. The territorial satellite cities did not have such treatment. It could only be arranged by the territorial lord. When Ouyang Shaw heard Bright Moon Illuminates River's request, he smiled and said, "Don't worry. In a few days, the Leopard Army's 5th Army will be stationed in the outskirts of Tianjing City. When the time comes, arrange for a division to be stationed in the satellite city." That couldn't be better. Bright Moon Illuminates River was overjoyed. Bright Moon Illuminates River was confident in the quality of Shanghai City's army. It was probably stronger than the NPC army spawned by Gaia. After discussing official matters, the two chatted until they reached the topic of the opened underground world. Ouyang Shaw asked out of curiosity, "How is it? What's the situation in the underground world?" With the opening of the 9 satellite cities, there would be information regarding the underground world popping up on the forums from time to time. Gaia even conformed to public opinion and specially created an underground world column on the forums. Just as Gaia had advertised, be it in terms of numbers, types, or even levels, the underground world's monsters completely crushed the monsters in the wilderness. However, the current underground world was still a forbidden zone for ordinary players. They had to wait for the magnate guilds to explore before they could enter. If not, it would only take minutes for them to be wiped out. Even the elite squads that explored the area suffered heavy losses. In the words of the guild bigwigs, every line on the map they drew was filled in with the flesh and blood of the elite squads. It was a tragic sight. Of course, the magnate guilds were not trying to be layphone. As pioneers, be it killing bosses or gathering rare materials, they were the first to arrive, earning them a bountiful harvest. It was also their first fortuitous encounter, so they did not suffer any losses. Ouyang Shaw asked Bright Moon Illuminating River about the situation in the underground world. As the underground world was huge, the monsters in different capital cities were different. Bright Moon Illuminating River smiled and said, "It's indeed brutal. If there's a chance, I suggest you go take a look." He then briefly explained some interesting things about the elite squad's exploration. Ouyang Shaw's heart stirred. He was also very curious about the mysterious underground world. He nodded and said, "All right, I'll treat it as a stroll." It slightly illuminated the dark and terrifying space. At least they could look around normally. That's right. If the underground world was really pitch black, how would the players explore? They couldn't always carry a torch. That wasn't realistic. The group walked for less than 20 meters and arrived in an open space. Looking around, no one would have imagined that this was actually underground. Just the open space under their feet was the size of 10 football fields. Outside the open space, There were ravines and huge tunnels leading to an unknown world. The whistling cold wind rushed out from those huge tunnels. They could also faintly hear the sound of flowing water. The thief marshal ran over and said with a smile, "We've built a temporary base here. In the future, we'll build a fixed supply base. The entire underground world is made up of tunnels and open space. The open space is the node and also the main monster area. The tunnels are the veins." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.